Hello, and welcome to Dungeons and Devs, the show where game developers get together, talk about game development, and then play some D&D. Uh, we're not getting paid to do this. We're just here because we like hanging out with each other. So tonight, I will be your dungeon master and host. I'm Xavier Coelho Castellani. I am a 3D character artist in Insomniac Games working on Spider-Man for the PS4. And tonight we have Sam Sewall, Justin Rodriguez, and Jeffery Simpson. Uh, Sam, would you care to introduce yourself? Tell us a little about you and what you do in the game industry.
Certainly. I'm Sam Sewall. I'm the tech co-founder at Immersed Games. We build educational games for kids, primarily middle school. Um, Basically, what I do is pretty much anything in the programming pipeline and everything. So, review a lot of code, do a lot of architecture, and write a lot of code.
Awesome, awesome.
And as for how I got into the game industry, it was mostly just me building a lot of games and then getting really lucky.
That seems to be a pretty common theme with a lot of people that I've talked to. Well, thank you so much for being here. Justin, how
Thank you.
about you? Would you care to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Justin Rodriguez. I am a senior environment artist at Firaxis Games. I pretty much work on, I've worked on the XCOM series, XCOM 1, EU, Enemy Unknown, XCOM 2, and recently the released War of the Chosen expansion. Um, all those games I've worked on hard surface, modeling, world building, and just anything you can really think of environment-wise. And how I got in the game industry. I thought I went to art school thinking I was going to be an art teacher, was going to be a painting major. Found Chris Salzback. I went to high school with him, and he was a character artist intern at the time at Firaxis. And I said, hey, that sounds like what I always wanted to do as a kid. So I changed my major to animation, and the rest is history. So, yeah.
Sweet. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, Jeff Simpson. Tell us a little about yourself.
Sure. So I'm a community manager at Capcom. I work out of the Capcom Vancouver studio here in Canada. And I got into the games basically by applying. I was doing customer service previously, and I saw an open role at a local studio called Relic. And, applied, got lucky, and 7 years later, here I am.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Well, thank you all so much for being here. I don't think it would be appropriate to have a game dev themed show or anything without asking some game development related questions. And For you guys, I just want to kind of get your, kind of pick your brains a little bit and ask you how you would recommend, what path you would take or what things you would do to get in the position you're in the industry. Maybe the steps you'd take as far as education or just practicing stuff at home. What your job entails and what people could do to sort of angle themselves in that career path. So, Sam, do you have anything that you'd recommend?
Sure. So starting out, in trying to be a founder, start prototyping. Get really, really good with talking to people because you're going to have to do it a lot. Um, Make sure that your social skills are there, even though you're a programmer. Like, I know what the stereotypes are, but you cannot be the stereotype. You need to be sociable. And with that, basically be able to fail early and often and just build stuff. Build it with your friends and get it in front of people, get their feedback and iterate. And
Sweet.
beyond that,
Yeah.
be agile because your position as a tech co-founder will probably change every 6 months.
Sounds like pretty good advice. And Justin, what about you?
Yeah, speaking for environment art and maybe a little bit of character stuff is I really, really suggest building up foundational artistic skills. If that means that you're a painter or drawing, figure drawing. If you want to get into characters, going to figure drawing classes if you have them around you, or going when you're in college, or if not, trying to draw from life as much as possible. Same with environment art. I did a lot of landscape painting. I still do a lot of landscape painting. And getting your hands on other than foundational art skills, getting your hands on some of the free engines out there like Unreal 4 and Unity, and just kind of getting a handle on how to kind of work in some of those spaces can always be really helpful. But really trying to get foundational skills in art, color, composition, understanding lighting is really, really important. And then when it comes time to move into the software section and learning how to use Maya or 3D Max, same with the engine stuff, it really gives you a really good basis to kind of make great art in those technological spaces, or in those software packages. So, yeah.
Yeah, sweet. I would absolutely agree. As a character artist, that building those foundational skills is a huge boon to any sort of art that you're going to be doing in the game industry. I've found it to be incredibly helpful, and I know that my peers have found those same things to be true as well. So, yeah, I definitely agree. And Jeff, what about you? How would you recommend somebody get into what you do?
Kind of a varied background for required. My suggestion would be just get involved with games you like as a fan, and don't do the thing where you're a complete dick. Some fans get intense. Most of them are great, but be the fan who's kind of there helping out, celebrating the game, promoting the game, and you kind of get to know the community team that's working on the games you love, and then they'll have ideas for you on how you can help them more. Because as community managers, we're always looking to do as little work as possible, and to get the fans excited about the games and to get them promoting it. So they'll have ideas, and then you can build up, your own skills and working with people on forums, online, on Reddit. And, that sort of will transition nicely to a career, as long as you get like a general education and you can read and write properly and you've got interpersonal skills.
That is definitely good advice, especially if you don't be a dick part.
Yes.
I think that rings through with pretty much everything that we've mentioned so far. Just really don't be a dick.
Yeah.
In game development, there's so much iteration. It's just really important to be able to stay positive, and when all the changes keep rolling through, because we're always changing in design and art and everything like that. You try to really put as much as you possibly can in, and make sure the fans love it. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've certainly found that to be true. Right now I'm working at Insomniac, and we're working on a big multi-million-dollar game that's, owned by, both Sony and Marvel somehow, and it's sometimes they can really butt heads. So being the person who's actually making stuff and being able to be agile about stuff, and being able to be positive about it is always a huge help. I know I sometimes have trouble with it, but I try. Well, thank you guys so much for, answering those questions, and we'll probably have a few more questions at the break to kind of ease us back in. But with that, I think it's time to get started. So, are you guys ready to play a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons? Yeah? You excited?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty. So, let's. Now, the Adventurers Guild. You guys have all heard of the Adventurers Guild. You guys are all members of the Adventurers Guild. And the Adventurers Guild is one of the largest guilds in the entire country, the entire world, even. And for you, what that means is in your home city, the Adventurers Guild is one of the biggest employers. And naturally, you guys found yourselves working for that guild. And the Adventurers Guild, like its name implies, employs people who are good at going out and doing adventurous stuff. Whether it's delving into mines and slaying monsters, or, protecting a caravan as it goes through dangerous lands. It can be any number of things. But the general structure of it, however, is surprisingly rigid for something that's generally about people who are very individualistic. And you guys, you're pretty low on that totem pole, pretty low in that rigid structure. But a man named Bailey, who is the guild master at your specific guild hall, has decided that you guys have kind of proven yourselves individually over the past few jobs that you've done, and he's going to throw you a bone. Bailey has recently gotten word that a small village named Clegg's End, which is at the end of a very long valley, which narrows to almost a ravine at the end, which is where Clegg's End is nestled. Clegg's End has been having some trouble lately, and Bailey received a letter from the governor of Clegg's End, and in this letter, the governor talks about various bad things happening, as as mundane as people having nightmares, to as extreme as the ground falling out from under buildings, swallowing them into black pits that go so far down that you can't even hear when a rock hits the bottom if you throw it down. It would appear that something in the area around Clegg's End has been chipping away at the very bedrock and somehow affecting the minds and lives and attitudes of the residents. So, receiving this letter and a promise of payment, both for the guild and, more importantly, for you guys, Bailey has sent you to meet with the governor, a man named Zane, who is currently waiting for you just outside of Clegg's End to guide you there. Bailey has sent you off, and as morning dawns, you guys find yourselves riding down the valley towards the ever steepening walls, with Clegg's End just in the distance, and at a small roadhouse on the way there, you see a man outside, standing, kind of kicking his boots in the dirt and whittling at a small piece of wood. He has a fairly long beard that's bright white, and he's wearing riding clothes, long boots and a comfortable cloak and loose jacket. And as he sees you, riding up to this roadhouse, he flags you down. And from the description you've gotten from Bailey, this is indeed the governor of Clegg's End, the man named Zane. What would you like to do?
Well, we'd best go talk to him, I suppose, since...
I'd say I should probably not be the one, considering my charisma.
As being a bard, I think just sitting here on our little wagon or our horses, just I think I might just kind of strum my lute and just say just take this, and I will introduce myself as Sullivan Hart, known but low-ranking bard of the Adventurers Guild, and my two companions are here to help.
All right. So as you ride up and introduce yourselves, Zane steps forward, and you can see that he's got a bit of a stoop to him. He's an older man, maybe in his late 60s or early 70s, and he's got the deep wrinkles and cuts in his face of a long, hard life. His skin is very tanned and leathery. And he comes up to you and he says,
"Oh, thank you for coming. It's so good to know that the Adventurers Guild received my letter. It's been weeks since I sent that letter out, and I wasn't sure it had even gotten there. Well, Sullivan, was it? You're the leader of this group, I take it.
I wouldn't say it. I think it's an equal group. I'm just the good-looking one.
Oh, well, I didn't want to say anything, but, I mean, you know. And what about the rest of you two? What should I call you?
And at this point, I feel it is all right for you guys to just say, I don't have a name. You can just call me by my name. Although I do have one restriction, and that is if you are going to do something, I would ask that you say you are going to do it in first person. So, I would like to, I am going to, etc.
Fair enough. My name is Rock. Like the stone.
Ah, well, it's very good to meet you, Rock.
And he walks up to you on your horse and sort of extends a hand. It's a little bit shaky, but, you know, it gets there.
I try to shake his hand lightly, but try is the word.
So as he reaches up to shake your hand, your meaty half-orc just grip fully encompasses his old knobbled fingers, and you squeeze slightly too hard, and you hear a slight popping, and he goes,
Oh, that is a strong handshake. Ah, you're a strong one.
and he kind of like bats you on the leg.
And what about you, sir?
Sir, first off, I am a woman.
Oh my
Second.
goodness, I'm sorry, my sight is failing me these days.
Second, I would prefer just to go by a first name. I am Megrel.
Megrel! Oh, well, it is lovely to meet you, and it is so good to see that the Adventurers Guild is getting a little more welcoming these days. Back when I was in the Adventurers Guild, it was such a boys' club. You wouldn't believe. Well, did you read my letter? Did Bailey tell you why you're here?
I look cautiously at the fellow adventurers. I just kind of followed them.
Sullivan, did anyone tell you?
I pull out my lute. I said, "Bring." I wrote a song about this, and yes, we did. I said, Zane, I heard that your town's in pain. Pits are swallowing up your town. Bada-ba-dip-dip with a whap with.
Oh my goodness! Oh, we haven't had a bard in this town in, it must be 4 years. Oh, it's great to hear some professional song instead of the crooning of these townies. Well, follow me and I'll get you up to date on what's been happening.
And at this point, he goes around the side of the building and comes back with the reins of a kind of ratty-looking horse, and he kind of like gets up and finally gets one leg up and around, and sort of like he's swaying side to side a little bit. He stabilizes himself, and he
These stiff joints. Well, let's go.
And he starts to lead you back into the ever steeper walls of the valley towards Clegg's End. You can see that there are some, little trails of smoke lifting up from the end of the valley, and it appears that through the brush and the trees in this kind of dry area that you guys are in, with these sheer stone walls, that a couple of peaked roofs are just poking out in the distance. They have gray slate roofs from what you can see, and the sun is beating down very hard, even at this time of the morning. It seems like it's going to be a really hot one later. As you guys ride on, getting closer to the village, Zane sort of briefs you on the past few days, the past few weeks, really, of what's been happening, and he tells you about how at least 2 houses have actually without warning, just plunged down into the earth. The rock that these buildings were built on just crumbling beneath them, and the holes are so deep that you can't see the bottom, and it almost seems as if they've been kind of dug out underneath. It doesn't look like water ran through there. It's a very dry climate in this area, so it wouldn't make sense for water to be running in through there anyway. It almost looks like something dug through or crashed through the ground underneath. And he also talks about how he and most of the rest of the people in the village have been troubled by strange nightmares about some sort of skeletal faces just just appearing to them, sort of chattering in their ears and just being generally kind of fucking creepy. And he, as you guys are riding along, he actually points to some local landmarks, one of which is the collapsed entrance to what looks like an ancient crypt that was built into one of the walls. And off to the other side, you can see that there are some ruins that look like they've been there for possibly thousands of years. There's still the remains of an obelisk, which looks like it might have been maybe 20 or 30 feet tall. And you can just make out faint scratchings on the surface that look like they might have been some sort of hieroglyphics of some sort. Now, entering the village, there's just a small wooden fence to kind of delineate the start of the village, and riding in, it's almost like an old western town, except with sort of stone and stucco buildings. People are kind of going about their business, but there's an anxious air to most of them, and when they see you, some of them stop and stare. And at this point, Zane points you towards the end of the village, where you can actually see that there is just a huge black oval in the ground, where presumably there is just a giant hole. And on either side of the hole are houses, which look like they have been completely untouched by this just sudden collapse. So, what would you like to do? Would you like to go investigate or talk to any of the locals or anything like that?
I think it's best that we talk to the locals and find out if they've pissed off any sorcerers lately.
Good plan.
That's a good plan. Yeah.
All right. So there is an inn, a very small inn. It looks like it's almost like a converted house, and it seems like a lot of people are at the inn. It seems like it's it has like a bar and restaurant type of area as well, kind of like a tavern. That seems like one of the more popular gathering places for the locals. If you'd like to kind of go over there or check out some of the stores or anything like that.
Inn sounds good to me.
Inn sounds good.
All right.
Yeah.
So riding up to the inn, Zane tells you that he does have some business to take care of. Some of the locals are getting antsy, and he just needs to go calm them down. So he's gonna go off and take care of that. But if you need him, he'll be just down the street. And tying up your horses outside the inn, you guys dismount and enter. And you can see that there are probably 10 or 15 people in this area there, and it looks sort of like a tavern on the inside. There's a bar off to one side, and then at the back there's a window where the single waiter can go and get trays of food and bring them out to the 3 or 4 tables that are clustered around. A couple of people are at the bar. Most other people are sitting, including an entire family of about 4 people. And then there's some noise in the back, which is presumably from the kitchen.
Let's go. Who looks good to talk to? Who looks like they're not?
Well, there is the singular waiter, busboy, whatever his job is, who he's noticed you, but he's sort of busy bussing tables and that type of thing. And there is also a bartender who is currently serving some drinks to a couple of patrons. So both of them seem like they could be pretty good to talk to. There are some other people nearby who've certainly noticed you, but aren't making any moves to like come up and talk or anything.
I say we try to flag down the bartender.
Sure, let's go do that.
Yeah.
I sit at the bar.
All right. So as you go and sit at the bar on one of these tall stools and make yourself comfortable, the bartender comes up and you can see that it's a very old woman, and she's very sprightly and spry for her age. She looks like she must be at least 90, and she's skinny as a rail, but she's got a fire in her eyes. And she comes up and she's like, what can I get you, boys? Oh, miss, I didn't see that. What can I get you? Can I get you an ale? Or would you like something a little stronger?
An ale's fine, please.
All right, one ale.
I would like an ale, please. Yeah.
All right, 3 ales. That'll be, well, these are trying times, I'm sorry. So I'm gonna have to say 2 silver. I hope that's not too much for you folks.
No, that's fine. I pay the 2 silver.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. And she goes and she grabs 3 big tankards and fills them up from a cask at the back. And, you can see that these mugs are kind of grungy, and the ale looks like it's probably flat already, but she's doing the best she can. And she kind of like comes back, and if you've ever seen like Golden Girls, she's kind of like Sophia, like this tiny little lady who's ancient but still has a ton of energy, and she's just like barely managing to hold these tankards of ale. She puts them on the bar, and she's like, well, now, what brings your beautiful people into town?
We were hired to come here. We understand there's been a darkness about the place recently, and we were hoping to help clear that up.
Dark? Oh, is it that fucking Zane again? Oh, he blows everything out of proportion. No, so a house collapses. That happens. People here are just bad at building houses. It's nothing. You can go home.
So, just out of curiosity, has there been anybody with dark robe, burning red eyes come through town recently at all?
That doesn't sound familiar to me, no. But, well, I mean, maybe I'm just not observant. I am getting old.
You mentioned it was trying times. What's been so trying?
It's that fucking Zane. He's always rousing the rabble and rabble in the rousing. Oh, me goodness. You wouldn't believe. He gets in a huff over nothing. And then he gets the ideas into the young folks, and then they start to panic. Oh, he's just an alarmist. He's just an alarmist.
So speaking about something completely different, the obelisk, can you tell us about that at all?
Oh, what that big rock outside? Oh, there's plenty of those. They've always been here. I suspect that they're fossils. You've heard of fossils? I heard of fossils when I was a little girl, and they're just the bones of some sort of ancient monster, and they're nothing to worry about. They're fossils. You don't need to worry about those things. Why would you concern yourself? We're busy living here, not busy talking about old bones.
Well, who are these young people that Zane gets riled up? What would they say?
Oh, you can ask the busboy. He leans into all that stuff. He believes everything that Zane tells him just because Zane's an old coot. Well, you know what? I'm an even older coot, and I say that he doesn't know nothing.
Well,
Well,
thank you. Oh,
you.
well, thank you for your time. We'll be back for more of this fine ale, I say as I lift my glass and throw a small amount of money, not quite a silver piece, half a silver piece, onto the table for her.
She says, "Oh, you're lovely. You're a lovely lass. Oh, you should come here more often. There should be more like you. Young folks just don't understand how hard it is to be, distinguished these days." And that she kind of like toddles off to the other end of the bar to refill someone else's tankard. Now, at this point, the busboy, he kind of he walks up and he like looks at her, and then he's like, "She's completely crazy. She's nuts. She's nuts, man. Shit's been weird here. Shit's been really weird. My mom's house fell into the ground last night. You saw that hole way down at the other end of the street? That was the first one. And then my mom's house, it's a good thing she wasn't in there, but it fell into the ground. There's a big fucking hole there now." And he looks again, and the bartender's coming back to, it looks like that she's generally coming in your direction. And he's like, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna get back to work, but my name's Marcus if you need anything. And he kind of scuttles off to the kitchen. So Zinnia comes back and she's like, "So how's the ale treating you? Is it good? Do you like it? It's a local recipe."
It is very good. Does it made on site here?
Oh, it is. Well, parts of it are. The actual brewing is done here, but then most of the ingredients are assembled at my place just down the street. Where they were. It's in the hole now, but I'm gonna recover it. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get all the ingredients back. I just, there's a hole, but I'm gonna hire some of the young kids to climb down in there and get the ingredients for it, and then we'll have more. You might have noticed this stuff is a bit on the stale side, but when it's fresh, oh, you'll love it.
Well, it's even better than this. I can't imagine.
Oh, you can't. No.
You said your house was in the hole. When did that happen?
Oh, it was a few days ago. When you were riding into town, did you see the big hole at the end of the street? Yeah, that's where I used to be. But it kind of fell in the hole while I was at work. I came out, I heard a big crash, came out, my house was gone, but, I'm trying to keep a good attitude about it.
All right.
All right. I thank her for the time and then chug the ale and walk towards the kitchen.
Yep. I follow.
Alrighty. And as you approach the kitchen, you can see that Marcus, the busboy, is back there just actively avoiding the bartender. He's just kind of like standing in the hallway, just like kind of peeking around the corner, and then like whenever she looks in his general direction, he kind of like goes, "I don't want to go out there," type of feel.
I walk up to the busboy and I say, "Unless you want us to blow your cover, what's going on? What's going on with these sinkholes?"
Oh man, it's so fucking weird. Everybody in town, everybody, even that old bat, we've been having terrible dreams for like the past 2 or 3 months, and then out of nowhere, houses just start falling into the ground. And the worst part is that at night, you can actually hear stuff moving in the holes. there's this. It sounds like rocks, man. It doesn't sound like a rock slide. Like I've heard rock slides. You've heard rock slides, but it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like rocks slamming on other rocks and like moving around. It sounds like footsteps almost. It's really fucking creepy, dude. And like the other night, I heard some sounds coming out of one of those holes. It wasn't just rocks. It was like this moaning. Dude, Zinnia, the bartender, she's crazy. She thinks this is normal. This is not normal. This is why Zane got you guys, right? You guys are here from the Adventurers Guild, right? Yeah. That is exactly why you're here. Because shit's crazy.
Is there anywhere you'd suggest we take a look, and investigate?
I mean, you could go and look in the hole, but I mean, it goes so far down that it's really dark. But you know what I think? Well, like I said, Zinni is crazy, but that obelisk and like all those runes and stuff, I think it's all related to this. Because like if you go out and you take a look at like the canyon walls and stuff, there are landslides in front of doors to something. There are ruins. Like our town square is built around a fountain that was already there. It's like 1,000 years old or something, man. Shit's crazy around here, and I'm getting out as soon as possible. But like right now, we just need somebody to do something about this. I think there's something in the ruins and like maybe down below that's doing all this shit. Yeah, I don't like it, and I'm glad you guys are here because you guys look pretty capable.
Well, you haven't seen us in action yet. We changed your mind.
I look at Rock and McGraw and say, "Gang, I think we should go check out that obelisk."
I think we should.
Much later.
I think we should have brought a wizard.
Dude, you guys have wizards? You know wizards? Oh god, you guys are so cool.
You don't want to know wizards.
You really don't want to know wizards.
Why? What? I heard they're cool.
They're jerks.
Oh, that sucks, man.
They smell weird.
I kind of gazed out of the kitchen like I'm looking at the bartender while polishing my loot, and I said, "Look at the loot," and look back up and say, "I knew a wizard once." I don't like to talk.
We drag him out. Mid-sentence.
So as you guys drag Sullivan Hart out of the local tavern and inn onto the street, you can see that the sun has finally come up and is peeking down into the middle of town. Off to your left is the rest of the small town. And off to your right is the trail that you guys came along with the ruins and that obelisk that you saw.
Do any of us have any arcane knowledge, or is investigating the obelisk going to be pointless?
I mean, you could go investigate it, see what you could learn from it, despite having no like arcane training or anything like that. Your bard might be able to help.
Yeah, I know that I have some proficiency in Arcana.
Yeah, so that might be helpful. Yeah. So yeah, you could absolutely go take a look.
All right, we should start there and then maybe go to the ruins.
Wait, I have dark vision, so I could potentially stare down into the hole.
I believe I also have dark vision, but...
wait, that's only 60 feet, so never mind.
Yeah.
Alright, I agree. Let's do what you guys said.
All right, so walking off to the right and heading just past your horses. It's just a short walk to this obelisk that you saw on the side of the road. And as you walk a little closer, you can see that it's sort of a sandy color, almost like you'd expect from something in ancient Egypt. It's got that kind of tan sand look, very clearly carved out of sandstone. And excuse me. this obelisk, which is currently toppled, used to stand on a large stone plinth, about 3 feet across, square, and about 5 feet high. This plinth is very worn down, and it looks like it's been exposed to the elements for a very long time. But even so, you can make out some very faint designs around the entire shape of it, almost looking like maybe floral designs or something like that. Though with how worn out it is, it's hard to tell exactly what they used to be. And looking at the remains of the obelisk, which are toppled down in several pieces, you can see that it used to be covered in some sort of symbols or hieroglyphs or something, possibly some sort of carven images, but it's very difficult to make out exactly what they would have been. But you can try doing an investigation check to kind of like, peek around at all the corners or something.
Yeah, I would like to do that.
Okay. So yeah, do an investigation check, or are you going to try to do an Arcana check to see if anything magical is about it?
Yeah, I guess I'll do it
if you want.
I guess I'll do a Arcana check first.
Okay. So yeah, roll an Arcana check.
There we go. Got a 6.
Yeah, so looking at it, it seems like it's so worn down by time and wind and sand and weather in general that you can't really make heads or tails of what these carvings used to be, like in general, but certainly not from a magical sense. They don't look like any sort of arcane symbols that you're used to. Though with how worn down they are, it'd be difficult to tell anyway. Is there anything else you guys want to do around the?
I'll do an investigation check.
Okay.
I have a +3 to that.
Yeah. So what are you kind of looking for?
I'm looking for trying to make out what the symbols are, so I can lead him to possibly reroll the arcane check with knowledge of the symbols.
Okay. So yeah, do an investigation check.
How many dice is that?
So you just roll a d20 and then add the investigation modifier number that you have on your sheet.
All right. You are literally not going to believe this. It's 20.
All right. All right. Perfect. As you're looking at the various bits of this toppled obelisk, it's in several pieces now that have it was clear that at some point it got pushed over and they tumbled and broke a bit. But looking around to one side of one of these chunks of stone that are, they're big. They're like this big across square and then maybe that thick in sections. You find that one of them actually is resting against a rock, and part of that part actually was shielded from the elements, and you can actually make out a couple of the symbols that are carved into the surface of this obelisk. And looking closer, you can see that these are hieroglyphs that are very reminiscent of Egyptian hieroglyphs. They're small images of objects and people and sort of abstract shapes. You can't read them, but it's clear that these are some sort of language and they're representative of something.
I point at them.
Justin, did you want to do another an investigation check?
Yeah, I walk up to where he's pointing and just give it another shot.
Okay.
Put my finger up in the air. Let's see. I got a 22.
Awesome. So, looking at this stuff, you don't seem to be able to actually read what it says, but it looks like small illustrations essentially, and there is a series of symbols, some of which are just like kind of abstract shapes, a couple of which look like small animals, And then right next to it, there's almost looks like a scene from a story, with multiple people, and a large box that, and all these people are standing in front of the box, and the box is kind of oddly shaped, and it looks almost like a sarcophagus. It has a sort of humanoid shape to the top of it, and it looks like there are rays of light shooting out from a round symbol right above the sarcophagus.
Hmm.
Should have brought a wizard.
Should have brought a wizard. Damn.
All right.
Wizards.
Let's
Move on.
move on. Yeah.
Ruins.
Gang, this seems ominous.
Seems ominous. Glad I brought my swords.
So picking your way across this part of the ravine to almost to the opposite wall, you can see that getting closer, the wall of this ravine or canyon, it looks like solid rock from a distance, but as you get closer, you can see that there is actually a facade that's been constructed over the top of the canyon wall, and it's crumbling, and it looks very ruined. So it's like from a distance, it's difficult to pick it out because it sort of blends into the rock around it. But as you come closer, you can see that there are the remains of large pillars, along with stonework along the surface in big blocks, and in the very center, a doorway which has rocks sort of slid down the front of it. A doorway that looks like the top is at about waist level for you guys, with probably stairs going down into it. And the stairs are almost completely covered with masonry and other stuff that fell off the facade, along with just general rock that slid down from the top of the canyon. And I want everybody to do a perception check.
Rolled a 13.
Okay,
22.
nice.
26.
All right, nice. So Rock, being a little bit distracted by the fact that there are suddenly these ruins popping out of the wall where it didn't seem there were before, doesn't quite notice, but the other two do notice that looking around to the other sides and looking at the walls on actually the other side of the valley, there, now that you know what to look for, you start to pick out other very similar structures. Some of them seem to be fairly regularly spaced. Others are sort of carved higher up into the wall, and you can see that looking around, the sort of odd rock structures of the walls of this canyon now are almost entirely made of the ruins of some sort of structures. It seems that at some point in the past, this entire valley was occupied, and all of the walls were used for some sort of dwellings or structures of some sort.
Well. No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, and as you sort of take this in, you just sort of naturally kind of turn towards the town, and as you turn directly towards Clegg's End, you realize that some of the rock formations coming out of the walls, these sheer stone walls above Clegg's End, are structures, the remains of huge pillars, 20, 30, probably 40 feet high in some places. Some of the rocks, the huge rocks that some of these buildings are actually built on top of, are the remains of giant statues. And directly at the back of the valley, where there's just another sheer wall, you can actually see that there is a balcony about 30 feet up, which looked just like a normal stone shelf before with a few plants growing off it. And in the middle of that balcony is the remains of a doorway. And looking and now being aware of this structure, you realize that the spacing of the holes that the homes have fallen into would actually fit with the placement of what look like from this distance some large structures which have sort of fallen in on themselves.
I turn to Rock and McGrell and say, I think this isn't the first time this has happened in this area. It looks like an older town had the same issue.
Yeah, or they're just bad at picking places to build.
Yeah. That or ancient curse, but I'm gonna go with the first idea. I say that we try to navigate the staircase.
All right.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so as you guys walk up to this sort of door that's lower in the ground, it's almost like trying to get down into a basement from outside. That same sort of feel. There are large boulders blocking most of this doorway. One of the boulders is actually about human-sized, about 5-6 feet high, and looks like it weighs tons. Some of the other rocks are much smaller, but this large rock is blocking most of the doorway that you can see.
Alright, so that's not an option.
Everybody do a perception check.
20.
18. Yep.
27.
All right, so standing there kind of in frustration at not being able to get into this thing that's kind of presented itself, you guys sort of take in the surroundings, trying to look for some other means of ingress, when you all hear all at once the sound of crashing rocks coming from the end of the valley just past Clegg's end. There is this sort of sound that sounds like huge boulders smashing into each other, but doesn't sound like a rock slide. It sounds like stomping. It sounds sort of rhythmic, like footsteps. And as this happens, you see that one of the houses in town suddenly starts to collapse in on itself in a huge plume of dust, and the stomping sound continues.
Well, okay, let's go. I start heading over that way.
I follow.
All right. So, running off in that direction, back into the town, you can the main street. Everyone has cleared out. Everyone's gone back inside, and no one's visible at all on the street. And your horses are currently sort of almost panicking, but still staying where they're tied up. And at the end of the street, there's this sort of billowing wall of dust coming down from where a house used to be, and that grinding, crunching sound of huge rocks slamming into other huge rocks continues. And as it continues for a few moments, you start to see a huge shape moving through the dust, moving in time with the grinding sound of rocks.
I inquisitively move forward and continue to stare at it.
Okay, are you guys following?
I follow, but fairly far back.
Okay. So, moving ahead of you guys, Rock sort of skirts around some of the buildings, trying to get a good look at this thing, and suddenly out of the dust, this huge shape just looms forward, and you can see that it looks like rubble. It looks like a huge mass of rocks and masonry that are all cobbled together. And for just a second, it actually looks like it has an almost animalistic form, with 4 legs and a head that has a sort of medium length snout on it, and this there's dust wreathing and coming off of its neck. And then as it takes another step forward, you can see that there is this greenish glow permeating its general chest area and sort of leaking out into the dust. And as it takes one more step, it looks directly at you and then starts to fall apart and collapse onto the street. Still trying to move, but as it moves farther and farther, the whole thing collapses in on itself and stops moving. And this green glow dissipates into the smoke and vanishes.
I poke our bard and ask if he wants to do an Arcana check.
I do have detect magic. I could attempt to detect what's going on here.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Well, it's obviously magic, but sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I try my best. Yeah. All right. So what do I roll for that? Do I have to roll anything?
Yeah,
Sorry.
Let me see exactly what it says, because it's been a while since I used detect magic. 1 second here. What do we got? Detect magic. For the duration, you sense the presence of magic within 30 feet of you. If you sense magic in this way, you can use your action to see a faint aura around any visible creature or object in the area that bears magic, and you learn its school of magic, if any. So what type of magic it is. It can penetrate most barriers, but is blocked by 1 foot of stone, 1 inch of common metal, a thin sheet of lead, or 3 feet of wood or dirt. So yeah, you want to use detect magic?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So as you sort of sit down and concentrate on this spell, it just takes a second to actually get it going, but you bring about the incantation with both movements of your hand and power words, and as this happens, your vision sort of clarifies around this hulking mass of stones and masonry, and it does indeed glow for you. It is absolutely magic, and additionally, it seems like the entire town that you're in has this sort of glowing, pulsating tinge of magical energy. And as this kind of catches your attention, you actually turn to see the large hole in the ground where the house used to be, and you can see that it's almost like light shining from down below for you. It's this sort of multicolored glow of red and green and purple and blue, all sort of swimming, almost like reflection from a pool of water, and it's all radiating from down below. And that's about as much as you can see. It seems like the general school of magic related to this mass of rock is something close to necromancy, but it's difficult to tell. It's a little bit unfamiliar.
All right.
I turn to the other, say, "Well, it's magic." Sorry. Sorry, I didn't check before.
All right. Why don't we check out the fountain that was
you guys
mentioned?
Sure.
Yeah, you guys want to check out the fountain at the center of town?
All right.
All right, so walking through this cloud of dust that's now starting to settle, You can see that just a couple dozen yards later on, you come to the small square at the center of town, and kind of your feet kind of crunching on the cobblestones as you walk into the square. You notice that whereas before the street was sort of cobblestones that faded into just dirt in the middle, it's now a very different type of stone that lines this entire square, and the fountain in the middle of the square, which is just kind of like burbling a little bit. It doesn't have any like tall streams. It's just there's a little bit of burble of water, and it rains down on itself, and it's the water is bright, piercing blue in the sunlight, and the stones that you're walking on are large sandstone blocks that look like they're the same material that was made to construct the obelisk and a lot of the other construction in this valley. And so is the fountain at the center. And as you walk up to the fountain, you can see that the general style, the like architectural style, is very, very different from any of the surrounding houses or anything. And directly opposite the fountain, on one side of the square, is the large hole in the ground where the house sank into the ground.
I roll an investigation check.
Okay, what are you looking for?
I'm looking for any of the types of symbols that we saw earlier.
Okay, yeah.
At all?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I roll a 15.
All right, cool. So, walking up and sort of like just making a circuit around this this fountain, you definitely do see more of these symbols, which are carved into the base of the outside of the fountain, and additionally, in sort of a radiating pattern around the fountain, it looks like there are more of these symbols carved, though they've been worn away over time with, people walking on them, horses and carts and that type of thing. But the ones on the sides of the fountain look like they're much clearer. And as you look at them a little more, you start to piece together some semblance of like a series of events. There are these very graphic images of some sort of figure, like a god or a king or something, with and in most of the images he's got his hand raised with a circle in the middle of it, and just like the image on the obelisk, with the sort of sarcophagus looking box and the circle above, it has rays of light radiating out from it in all these pictures.
So it looks like we're looking for a sunlight orb of some sort.
Could it be
Or-
the magic emanating from the actual pit? Should we investigate the pit? I know we've tried before, but I could try to throw dancing lights down there and see if that helps.
Sure. Does it look like we could get down the pit somewhere, or?
You can go take a look.
All right, let's go take a look.
So, walking over to the pit, you guys see that the edge is actually very sharp, and it kind of, if here is the ground, it actually has a lip that goes under a bit, and it seems like it continues down in sort of a curve for quite a while, and it looks almost like the walls of that pit have been sort of scraped away by rock. You know how when rocks hit against each other, they leave, like a brighter mark on each other. It looks like that's happened, and there are huge, long streaks of rock that have just been shorn away. And looking down into the pit, it's even with the bright light reflecting off of the walls of the valley, it's difficult to see anything down there. It looks like it goes down for maybe 100 feet, and at that distance, it's very, very dark.
think one of our only options here is either to go back and talk to Zane or follow this entity that we came into contact with. What do you guys think?
I think following the entity is the best idea.
Sure.
The more danger, the better.
Okay. So you guys wanna figure out where the mass of rocks came from? You wanna sort of follow its trail?
Yeah.
Okay. So going back to this big pile, which is now completely still, it has no more motion to it whatsoever. You can see that it has indeed left a trail of rocks and debris that fell off of it as it was moving around and smashing into things. And you can see that it smashed its way through a house. And following that trail through the house, you find on the other side another huge pit, which is presumably the one that Marcus, the busboy, told you about, the one where his mother used to live. These are the only pits that you've seen in the town, and it looks like this is the one he was talking about. And the trail of debris that fell off this thing leads directly there. So what would you like to do?
Does it look like we can climb down this one?
Yeah, do a perception check.
All right.
Ooh, 22.
12.
7.
7. Sullivan, looking down in the pit, notices that along with some of these scratch marks, it looks like there are probably some harder rocks in the actual earth. That this huge mass of rocks it looks like it was able to kind of like get a grip on them and pull itself up. And they almost form small shelves going down, almost like very rough, large steps that you would probably be able to climb down. It's still completely pitch black down at the very bottom of the pit, but from what you can see, it looks like that would be a potential way down.
All right. Oh, you go.
I was going to use my acrobatics and start.
Yeah, I've got second
down.
story work, and dark visions, so I'm gonna head down.
Okay, cool.
I use my dark vision and just head down as well.
Awesome. So everybody do an athletics check for me.
17.
Okay.
18.
Can I do acrobatics instead of athletics, or?
Yeah, if you want to do something a little more flashy, yeah.
Sure, I'm gonna do some flips.
Okay.
Actually, yeah. Go ahead.
All right. For some reason, it's telling me success. It's 25.
25. Yeah. So taking sort of a second like this, and then running up to the edge of the pit, you manage to cartwheel over and land on the first step. And then using your momentum, just bounce, flip again, and flip down. And as you go deeper into the pit, it gets darker and darker. But then after 2 more flips, it's an incredible acrobatic display. And then you, as you hit the bottom, you go into a roll, spring up like a gymnast, and sort of give a little flourish, just instinctively. What are you guys doing?
Well, I get. So go ahead. Yeah.
I do an athletics check to just head down.
All right. And what did you roll?
I rolled a 14, but I have a +4.
Okay, so that's an 18 total.
Yep.
Yeah. So you very handily managed to climb your way down there, no problem. It's pretty easy going, and once you get down to the bottom, it's pretty dim, but you're still able to make things out. What is Sullivan doing?
So I rolled a 17, and I would like to follow suit. When when Merg, oh my gosh, I had your name.
Magrel.
Megrel. When
Megrel.
Megrel went down, I said, she flipped over me. I went, nice. But I also wanted to try with my acrobatics. I knew I have some moves. So I rolled a 17, and I have acrobatics of +5, and I'm in the 22 curse. I'm rolling 22 so many times. I swear it's real.
Yeah, so seeing that your companion is making a bit of a show of it, you want to try to do the same. So naturally, the thing to do is to do some flips as well, and you managed to do it quite handily. At one point, it seems like there's a bit of a bit of sand that your foot kind of slips on, and it almost looks like you're going to slip and just eat shit, but then you manage to kind of catch yourself, twist into it, and do another couple of flips and land down at the bottom, and do another flourish directly at Miguel,
Awesome.
just to sort of like haha, I can do that too. And yeah, that brings you all down to the bottom. And now looking around at the bottom of this pit, you can see that it's made of a lot of the same material that big mass, that creature thing was made of. A lot of the same types of stone. And looking around, you can see that this pit is actually somewhat square down here at the bottom. There's a ton of rubble down at the bottom, but some of it actually the remains of a house. But picking your way through it, you can actually sort of make out that it actually looks like constructed walls. This looks like it used to be a large room with a very high roof that was at ground level, and this was dug down very deep into the earth, and the roof caved in, leading to everything coming crashing down. And looking around briefly, you can actually see that there are a couple of doorways leading out of here, one of which is completely covered by rubble, but you can still see sort of the outline of it in the wall, and the other which looks like it's probably clear.
Any objections to trying the door?
Nope.
Let's try it.
All right. I try the door.
It's actually just an open doorway, and it's
Wow.
about half covered with rubble. It looks like it leads into a hall, so presumably it was like an open doorway leading into this room at some point in the past. It's completely pitch dark in there, though.
We have dark vision.
I would like to, even though we all have dark vision, I would like to try to cast dancing lights into a light man.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to send it down into the into that doorway?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, cool. So these lights, these multicolored lights, sort of coalescing into a vaguely humanoid form, it sort of whisks its way down into this doorway, and the very dim light that it casts on the walls shows that it's about a 5-foot wide hallway with maybe a 8 to 10 foot ceiling. And as it continues floating down that hallway, you can see that it's very, very fine construction, and you don't see any of the same sort of wear and tear that you've seen on any of the ruins elsewhere. And looking down there, you can see, just with that dim light, that there are designs on the walls, and they're multicolored and very vibrant. And as the dancing lights move farther along this hallway, it looks like they open up into another large chamber. And just to give you guys some sort of reference, if the town is here and the direction you came from is down here, the pit that you guys just went into is right about here, right about here, and the very end of the valley is up here, and you guys are heading in that direction.
Cool.
So you guys want to follow the lights down the hall and see what's down there?
Sure, I'll follow the lights down a long tunnel.
Okay,
And
so
while we're walking, I'm singing the Dancing Light song. It's like, Light Man, dap dap da 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 da, the Light Man, and he's like dancing with me, like Light Man's
oh,
feeling
yeah,
it.
yeah, it's got some rhythm to its steps down this hallway. It's nice to see. He's got it. He's got it in his little light man hips. So continuing down this hallway, it looks like this hallway is maybe 60 feet long, and then it opens up into a large chamber. And as you guys enter this large chamber, you can see that it is. It almost looks like, from the dim light that you can see and like your visual distance that you have with your dark vision, you can see that it has huge pillars stretching up to the ceiling, about 100 feet up. And these pillars are maybe 10 feet across, and there is a row of 6 at the front of the room, and it goes about 4 rows deep. And these pillars are maybe 20 feet apart. So the entire room is very, very large. And right in the very center of the room, you can see that there is a small platform that's very slightly raised. It's about 3 steps up. And on multiple sides of this platform, there are like piles of something. It's hard to see from this distance. And it's mostly obscured behind the huge columns, but you can see that there is something on this small platform. So what are you gonna do?
Unless anyone else wants to do anything first, I will approach the platform.
Okay. So walking cautiously over there, making sure that you're not going to run into any more sort of rocky beasts or anything. You're actually struck by the fact that as you get closer, there's a very slight green glow emanating from the center of the platform, and as you round one of the columns, you get a better view, and from maybe 30-40 feet away, you can now see that this platform is maybe 20 feet wide, 10 feet deep, and there is a low table, almost like a desk, and surrounding the table on almost all sides, except for in front of it and sort of almost like a walking space on one side, there are piles and piles of books and scrolls. And sitting at the table, in sort of a slumped position, staring down at a book, is what looks like a corpse, an emaciated, mummified corpse in very fine red robes with very extremely intricate gold designs on them. And it's wearing a small just like skull cap that's also red with gold designs, and the figure itself is emanating this sort of greenish glow, and it's looking down at an open book on this. It's sort of sitting in a chair and looking at this book at the on the table. It isn't currently moving.
Currently. I go try and pick up the book.
Okay, so walking over to this platform, you take 1, 2, 3 steps up, and as you start to approach the table, the green glow that's emanating just from the general body of this figure sort of intensifies for a second, and you can hear this sort of like crunching, crackling sound as it starts to move and look up at you with sunken in eye sockets that have no eyeballs in them, and it opens its mouth as if to speak, and all that comes out is this sort of dusty sounding sound.
I pull out a flask and ask if it would like some water.
So, walking up and offering the flask, it actually, you can see that its head turns to look at you, and there's like some slight popping sounds, and it almost sounds like the crinkling of tissue paper. And you can actually see that as the head turns, the neck actually, the skin and sinew of the neck actually slightly cracks and flakes away, kind of dusting onto its red robes and onto the book in front of it. And you can see that it starts to smile. Its face sort of cracks a little bit as its cheeks pull back, and its lips are sort of pulled back just because of the nature of the skin being dried taut, but you can still see just a slight smile, and at that it actually raises a hand like this, and there's this, the green glow sort of turns to a purple, and in all of your minds you actually hear a voice as this corpse's jaw moves as if it's speaking, and you hear this voice emanating almost from the inside of your mind, and it says,
Welcome, travelers, and thank you. I have not seen water in 7,000 years. You are quite amusing.
I hand him the water.
It sort of reaches out with its other hand that doesn't have the purple glow coming from it, and as it reaches out, you can see that when its hand opens, parts of it crack off, and then the fingers and most of the hand actually fall off from the table, and it then withdraws its hand, kind of looking at the stump, and you can actually hear a slight chuckle in your heads. It kind of goes,
I'm sorry for my current state.
Is there anything we can do to help you?
You can see that its cheeks kind of crack again, and it smiles, and you hear this sound as the body actually sort of goes like this and laughs a little bit, and its fingers sort of wiggle, and you can hear it saying,
I'm afraid I'm a few thousand years beyond help. But I apologize. I have not introduced myself. I am Uman, last priest of great Lord Okmanok. I am pleased to make your acquaintance.
and he sort of gives a little bow, and you can hear the sort of like cracking and clicking of its spine just a little bit as it bows, just a little bit over its book, and then straightens himself.
You're doing such a good job bonding with him. I'm going to leave this up to you.
My name is Rock.
It is nice to meet you, Rock. I see a lot of rocks around here.
I also laugh at the joke.
So tell me, you have come to meet Ankh Manok, have you not?
We have come to discover what is causing the collapse of the terrain above.
And you can hear this sort of exhale again. he pauses for a moment, and it almost like as little as you're able to read these expressions on this dried out gaunt face, you can tell still that he's sort of thinking about it for a second. And finally he sort of opens up and
I thought I heard something a while back, but time moves strangely down here, so I wasn't sure how long it had been. Was that you making those noises?
What noises were you describing exactly?
There was a crashing and a roar, and I have heard many rumblings from around my chamber.
That was not us. We were hoping that you might tell us what's going on.
I am not certain, but I can make a guess. As you can see, I have not left my writing desk in a while, so I don't really get out much. But I think it may be the same thing that keeps me in this state.
A green glow?
Ah, you noticed. Yes, this glow is the power of my lord, great King Akmonok, my lord, my god.
I look at him and say, "Do you mind if we borrow your book to take a peruse through its pages? It must hold many secrets."
Oh, you are most welcome to any of my library. Please help yourself.
All right.
All right.
I take a look at the book, whatever page it's on. Yeah.
okay. So getting up there and kind of turning the book so it's facing you, you can see that this book it's really not in good shape. It looks like it has been sitting someplace very dry for a very, very long time. And as you go to touch one of the pages, as you're touching a page, as you're kind of turning around so you can see, the pages along the edge actually just completely crumble at your touch. It's so old and dry that just the lightest touch would cause it to crumble. And looking at the page, you can actually see that it's the same series of the same types of symbols written across the entire page in long vertical columns as you've seen on the obelisk and on the other ruins.
Do you know what these symbols mean exactly? Could you explain them to us?
Oh yes, this is our writing. This, I suppose, things do change in 7,000 years. Yes, this is our language. It may be too ancient for you to read. This book is a treatise on ancient magics. Though I suppose for you they are doubly ancient now. This passage concerns the use of magic in creation and destruction of life. And on this page, it talks about applications for plants and animals using these magics.
Does it say anything about creating giant rock creatures?
No, but I've read this book a few times, and later on it does talk about animating stone. This was one of my great lord's biggest and most fantastical accomplishments. I'm sure you've seen his magnificent sculptures outside. Oh, they must look spectacular to you. All of their great size looming above the valley.
7,000 years do have quite the toll. I mean, there's erosion, there's wind damage, there's
Dogs pee on 'em.
settlers.
Then perhaps you did not see them. But let me tell you, my lord Ankh-Morpork, he was a master manipulator of the elements, given to his ownership of a great amulet. It gave him the power over every element, including life and death. That is how I remain in this state. The power of his amulet sustains me, and I suppose it has animated the stone, if this is what you're talking about.
So, where would this Ankh-Morpork be these days?
His final resting place is just beyond. This is his temple and his burial place. He was sealed away after his priests realized that the power had driven him mad. We had no other choice. I was the last living priest of Ankh-Morpork, and I chose to end the line of his priests and stay here with him for eternity.
Does he still have this super powerful amulet?
He does not possess it, no, but the amulet is in the chambers below.
With his body?
Nearby, yes.
That seems ill thought out.
He is in a very secure place, I assure you.
How about the amulet?
The amulet is also below. We did not know what to do, and we did not want to desecrate it because it is so sacred to us. So we left it there, in a place of glory, you might say.
I get a weird vibe from this zombie man. And I feel like I need to kind of use my perception to see if he's lying to us or he's holding something back.
Yeah, sure. Do an insight check.
Insight check?
Yeah.
A 17.
The way that he's speaking sounds almost like he is like not quite trying to convert you, but he's like, oh, praise this guy. He's really cool. He's my god. He's my lord. He's my king. All this stuff. Just like his tone sort of gets that across. It doesn't seem like he is lying about anything, but that's about as much as you can glean.
Okay.
So, if we wanted to go pay respects to your lord, whose name forgets me.
Ankh-Morpork.
Yes. Where would we go to do that right now?
I see what you're driving at, and I understand why you're here. If you go past me through the next few chambers, you will run into some challenges. Those who are able to make it through will be deemed worthy of seeing the amulet and Lord Ankh-Morpork. And what you do down there is up to you.
I thank him and start down the chamber.
All right. So is there anything else you want to do around here?
I real quick just ask him, Is there any tips you can give us about the challenges? Because we're trying to save the town above before this gets out of hand.
The town. There was. Time. Time gets away from me. Of course, there's a town in such a beautiful place. If you want to get through the challenges, remember that each one is based around the power of Akmanok, the elemental powers that he possesses. If you can pass through each one, you will be worthy of viewing his elemental power.
All right, I head down the chamber with Rock and wave goodbye.
I follow. I don't want to be left here with the old guy.
So as you guys work your way to the back of this very large chamber, you can see that from above there are actually a couple of skylights, very small, probably like about the size of a manhole, roughly, that let in just a tiny bit of light, and one of them strikes at a spot where you can see that the floor is very intricately carved with what looks like some sort of illustration or of like a narrative or something, and you can see that now that he's mentioned that it's an amulet, you can see that the thing that this figure that you keep seeing is holding, that must be the amulet he's talking about, this thing that is shooting out rays of light. And you can see that the floor is covered in a huge mosaic of this figure holding the amulet, and then above him there's a much larger image, which is presumably this amulet, and it looks like a circle with 5 gems in it, in 5 different colors. There's a green, a blue, a red, a purple, and a yellow. Yeah, that's the right number. And each one has a beam of light just kind of like radiating out to the edges of the mosaic on the floor. And working your way back past this, you can see that there is a large ornate doorway leading into a passage, at the end of which is a small room, which looks it looks like a half round with 5 doorways. So there's a doorway in the middle, and then 4 more doorways off to the sides. They sort of radiate out.
I imagine that each one of these doorways, gang, is gonna take us to each trial. Should we split up, or should we go together into each doorway?
Splitting up seems like a bad idea.
Yeah, considering the fact that all of our abilities are quite different, which one might be critical in a trial.
Yeah.
If we all had like the same abilities, then like we could totally split up. But because of the fact we don't, it's not very smart.
Yeah.
All right, let's start from the left. I say randomly.
All right.
And head for the left door.
Okay, so
Let's go.
As you approach the door, all the way to your left, you can see that at the entrance on the floor, the mosaic is it's kind of hard to read in the low light, but you can see that it's done in sort of tones of like earthy tones, tans and browns, and then walking up to the doorway, you can see that there's a very thin scroll work that goes around the entire thing in a tracery of yellow. And looking around to the other doorways, you can see that actually each one is colored after each one of those different gems on the amulet. So you guys are approaching the yellow one.
Yeah.
So walking through into the dark space at the end of this doorway, you can see that the light fades very, very quickly, and then the hallway continues on for about 100 yards. It's a very long walk, and then at the very end of it, it looks like it just looks black. Like it's just like there's floor and walls and ceiling, and then right beyond it, there's just blackness.
Can you send your dancing light man?
Yeah. I guess I'll cast Dancing Light again, and this time, yeah, I guess I'll call forth the man shape, my Dancing Light Man.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So casting your dancing lights and sending it forward, it floats beyond the edge of the floor, and you realize it's not like a wall or something. This is an actual huge, empty, open underground space, which just starts immediately at the end of the hall. And with these lights sort of forming a vaguely humanoid shape out into this space, there's just enough light being cast to see that about 20 feet down, there is it almost looks like a miniature landscape of sand and rock. It's a very rough landscape that looks like it was constructed in here for some sort of purpose. It looks like there are small valleys, and one part of the rocks looks like a small mountain. It's structured like a mountain, but it's small. It can only be maybe 5 or 6 feet high. And it's a straight drop about 20 feet down.
I do a perception check.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
22.
So, looking around and utilizing your dark vision, you can get a better sense of what this room looks like, and it looks like you can't quite see the end, but you get the impression that just the way that the landscape down there is arranged with hills along the walls. You can see that it's a large square chamber, and the hills along the walls continue backwards into darkness. And you can see that there are actually handholds in the wall right below where the hallway ends, which would let you climb down. It's almost like a ladder carved into the stone wall.
All right, I head down the wall.
Okay, cool.
I follow.
Yep, I follow.
It's actually a pretty easy climb. It's basically just like climbing a ladder. And as you set foot down at the bottom, you can hear the sort of crunching of sand below your foot. And at that point, I need you to make a dexterity saving throw.
Ooh.
11.
So as your foot touches the sand at the bottom of this ladder, with your friends just above you, you place your foot down and put your weight on it, and as soon as your weight is actually on the sand below, you feel a sort of shift below you, almost as if the level of the sand drops about half an inch, and then from directly in front of you, the wall just explodes towards you, and a boulder crashes through the wall, smashing into your midsection as it comes out of a hole about yay big. It smashes into your chest and deals. It's gonna be 8 bludgeoning damage directly to your chest, and it slams into you and bounces off, knocking you prone.
Okay.
All right. Now what? What are you doing?
Is it still my go, or the other two should?
Well, I mean, you're knocked prone, so let's see what the other guys are doing, then we'll loop back to you.
Okay.
All right. So what happened to me exactly?
So
Do I also have to roll?
You were just above, and the part of the part of the like ladder steps on the wall just below you exploded outwards with a huge rock slamming into your friend and knocking him down.
I push off the wall and jump down to my friend.
All right, cool. Do an athletics check real quick, or an acrobatics check.
All right. So what's my acrobatics? 6.
Yeah, it's not a very long fall, but your foot kind of like slips as you go to push off, and you land in kind of a weird position, and it tweaks your ankle just a little bit. You kind of like fall over a little, and then catch yourself, and you're like, it's okay, I'm good. Ow, but I'm good. And you take 1 point of bludgeoning damage as your ankle kind of twists just a little bit. And Justin, what are you doing?
I'm gonna, if I can possibly hold on to the wall and just kind of, I go, you guys look like you're having some trouble down there. Let me see if I can give a little bit of help. And I was gonna try to do healing word on Magrel.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Yeah. So wait, do I have to? Let's see here. I don't think I have to roll anything, do I?
For healing word.
Oh yeah, D4. Yeah. Okay. Regain points of your 1d4 spellcasting ability modifier.
Yes. So that is going to be. It's a +7.
So it's 1 + 7. I got it in 8.
All right. So that is back up to full HP then.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.
No problem. Hope you're feeling better. That's what I kind of yelled down. I think I'm closer than I need to be, but I'm still yelling. So.
As you yell, it kind of echoes in this chamber, and you take a moment to just savor the sound of your lovely bardly voice.
Oh yeah. It's almost like I can smell. It's pungent.
Oh yeah. It's very nice. It's smooth. So working your way down the ladder, you just want to hop down there with them?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So now that you guys are all on the ground in this room, you can see that off to your left there is what looks like a miniature sand dune that leads into kind of a flat salt plain area, and then off to your right is what looks like more of a mountainous region. Directly ahead is this sort of transitional area with small foothills or something like that.
Well, this is unexpected, but all right. I'm gonna do an investigation roll.
Okay, what do you like?
Just to see if there's anything around, any more traps. I'm gonna look for traps specifically.
Yeah, so that'd be an investigation check. Yeah.
All right. That is 20.
Yeah. So looking a little farther ahead, you can actually see that there are several parts of the floor that are very similar to the pressure plate that you stepped on, and they each one looks a little bit different, but you can see a seam around each one where it's kind of like a carved square of something that then has some sort of feature of the ground over the top. It looks like each one of these things, one is the top of a hill, the other is in the salt plain area, and one is at the top of a mountain. And it looks like there might be a few more later on. And seeing them, you'd be able to pretty easily avoid them and tell your friends where they are.
All right. Watch out, there's traps.
All right. So you guys want to work your way through the room and see if you can get through the other side?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So walking through this room, you're able to avoid most of the traps, and you actually get to the other side of the room and find that there's actually a wall very similar to the one that you climbed down, and it has steps very similar. And completely surrounding the bottom of or the floor at the bottom of the steps or the rungs of this ladder are more of these pressure plates, and they extend out for about 10 feet.
I ask the rest of my party, do you think we should throw something on one of them and see what happens?
I'm
Sure.
wondering. I'm wondering if it's not some sort of puzzle that we have to walk over specific ones.
Yeah. I do a perception roll.
Okay, what are you trying to look for, or just like looking
I'm trying
around
to
in
look
general?
for. I'm trying to look to see if there's any markings, in particular on the pressure plates.
Gotcha. So that'd probably be more of an investigation check.
Okay, investigation then.
Yeah.
Let me double check what my bonuses are for investigation. That is +3. Okay. I roll a. Is that a 6 or a 9? That is a 9. So I rolled a 12.
All right. So, kind of edging up close to look at some of these pressure plates. Now that you know what to look for, excuse me. It doesn't seem like they have any sort of special, like any specific one has any sort of special significance. It seems like they're all just pressure plates that would activate something, but it's hard to tell what they might activate.
Well, if we want to try one, I'm not for stepping on it again. Was that the consensus? We want to poke them?
Sure.
Is there anything nearby that we can? Do a perception roll to see if there's anything that we can use to activate them while not on top of them.
Okay. I mean, you could just looking around, you could see that there are plenty of like small rocks and stuff like that. You could try picking one up, you know.
I tell everyone to stand back and then toss a rock onto it.
Okay. Which one are you trying to toss a rock at? More at the center or more at the outside?
Center.
Okay. So you pick up this rock. It's maybe about the size of a fist, and you just kind of you are able to toss it at the pressure plates in the center, right underneath where the rungs of the ladder are, and it actually kind of bounces off the wall and bounces onto one of the pressure plates and comes to a rest, and then the plate dips down about half an inch. And you guys all start to hear a sound from every single direction. And looking directly above that pressure plate, in the rungs of the ladder, you can now see that there is sand leaking out of each one of the rungs, along with holes in the wall that were not really easily distinguishable before in the dark.
I take a running start to jump at the ladder.
Okay. All right.
All right, back up the ladder.
Yeah.
Back up the ladder.
Let's see here. One second. I need to look something up because I completely forgot. Let's see here. I forget exactly how the jumping rules and such work. Let me see here. Jumping. Make a long jump. Cover a number of feet up to your strength score if you move at least 10 feet on foot immediately before the jump. So, yeah, you would take a running jump and try to grab onto the rung of the ladder. And with that, I'm going to need you to do a strength check to just try and hold on to this thing as you sort of bounce against it and are being pelted with sand.
I roll 18 and I have a +4 on strength.
Yeah, you're able to just kind of
22.
like latch onto this thing, even with the sand kind of pouring in your face. It's just like, no, I'm gonna stick onto this ladder and I'm gonna stay there. And you're able to pretty easily start moving up now that you have a good grip on it. What are you other two doing?
You should go first. I can climb quicker.
Oh, looks like your sound is out.
Oh, look.
There
Sorry.
you go.
Yes, I
Yeah.
will. I will go and climb up the ladder. Sorry about that.
All right. Are you gonna try to jump over the pressure plates, or are you just gonna run up?
Ooh. I don't think I can do anything with my acrobatics here, can I? Like some sort of weird.
It'd be more of
Cartwheel.
It'd be more of an athletics check to actually get across the pressure plates.
I think I'm gonna attempt to jump. Yeah, let's just try it.
Okay. What's your strength score?
Strength is 0. So
So you have a 10 in your strength. Let me see here.
I have 11th strength. Yep.
11. So yeah, you would actually with a running start, you'd be able to make it across these pressure plates and grab onto the wall. However, I do need you to make a strength check to actually kind of like latch onto the wall
Sure.
without bouncing off.
Well, I could also grab him.
Oh no. I rolled a 1.
Oh, so yeah. Unfortunately, as you run, you do succeed in making it to the wall, and as you hit the wall, you try to grab on to the rungs of this ladder, and you get it. It's in your grasp, and then you just keep moving forward, and you just bounce off, and you fall flat onto your back onto the pressure plates.
Oh no.
Do a dexterity saving throw.
All right. I got an 11.
All right. Yeah, that's not good news. So let me 1 second. Let me see what the. Okay, so from directly above you, you feel this sort of rush of air, and then your entire body is covered in sand almost instantly, and you can feel it piling on harder and harder. And like even before you know it, it's almost as if a huge door just opened and sand just fell, and you are now being completely buried. I need you to do an athletics check to try and get out from under the sand before you are completely buried under a pile of it.
Okay. All right, I got a 13.
Yeah, so after an initial struggle, and probably with your friends helping you as well, you managed to kind of like dig your way out of the sand, sputtering and coughing as this stuff is, in your nose, in your mouth. It's threatening to go down into your lungs, and you pull yourself out, and there is now a huge pile of sand leading up to the feet of Rock as he just stands there on the ladder looking down at this course of events that's just happened.
Oh man.
All right, what are you guys doing? The hissing sound is continuing
I
from
gotta
the
go.
walls.
Ladder.
All right, so
I assume I don't have to jump or anything.
yeah, now that the all of these pressure plates are just completely covered in a huge mound of sand, and it seems like the sand coming down from the walls is starting to really pile up around the edges. So you could actually just run up that pile and get onto the ladder.
All right, I'm just gonna do that.
Okay, cool. So I'm assuming you all just want to run up the ladder and get to the top. So getting up to the top of the ladder, you guys find yourself in another pretty dark hallway, down at the end of which is a right-hand turn. And as you work your way down this hallway, it's a very plain hallway, and now that you know what to look for as far as like pressure plates and stuff are concerned, you don't see anything on the floor. It looks pretty mundane. And as you turn the corner, you realize that you are facing a room which is large and semicircular, which has 5 doorways in it, each one of which has a colored line and a mosaic of a specific color going to each door. You are now back at the entrance to this half-round room that you entered the Earth trial room from. And with that, we're going to take a break.
Okay.
Hello, and welcome back to Dungeons and Devs. We're just finished for another break, and before we get back into the game, we're going to do another round of questions that maybe our guests can help answer. It's one question, really, but it's something that you could all probably have different types of feedback on. And that question really is basically just, are there some things that either you did in your career or that you know are some pitfalls that you'd like to provide some advice on how to avoid them? Things that you can do that will help you kind of navigate some of the trickier situations that you might have run into in your career, whether it's something recent or something earlier on. It's really open to anybody, but what do you think? Anything that you'd tell somebody to avoid?
I think my advice would be, I keep going back to don't be a dick. But I think one thing, especially here in Vancouver, it's a fairly small industry. We've got, 4 or 5, large-sized studios, but people move around enough. If you have a bad experience working with someone or working in a studio, always be gracious when you leave. If you go on to something else, if you get another job, don't burn your bridges. As much as you might want to, give everyone the middle finger on your way out and say, screw you all. I'm off to eat wherever we're going. Don't do that because you never know when you're going to be back.
That is absolutely a good point. I've actually run into several situations at events like GDC where, people who have acted kind of crappy or something are having a tough time getting new work because they did burn some bridges. I also had, a couple of incidents where I met people in person who just they didn't put forth that effort to not be a dick or not have those social skills like you mentioned earlier, Sam, and it kind of came back and bit them in the ass. So that's absolutely a very good point. Sam, Justin, do you have anything that you would add to that? Like, in terms of things that you might want to avoid in your career, whether it's early on or something more recent?
I think something early on, at least I can speak for environment artists specifically because it's something that happens in environment artists. Early on, when you're first getting into the industry, it's something I knew that I fell into, and I've seen other junior artists and interns fall into. When you're working on environments, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be made, and there's a lot of boring stuff that needs to be made, and most of the time. There's not most of the time, but there's a good quality of time where you're just kind of building up a library of assets for whatever game you're working on, especially if it's a new game, and you kind of have to, take it in stride, work up each asset, each prop as much as you think that you need to, and try to find joy in that, and move on to the next thing, and remember to look at the environment holistically while you're doing it. I've noticed that. Artists will kind of grab something. Junior artists will kind of grab a prop or grab an asset and say, okay, what's coming up after I finish this? What's coming up after I finish that? And while it's really important to kind of keep feeding the artists new pieces and stuff to keep them interested, it's always really important to kind of look what's right in front of you and realize that every new piece that you're getting is a learning experience, especially early on like that, because you're going to get trees and mailboxes and tiling textures, and each one of these assets is a whole other problem to solve that can take years to kind of get to build a mastery to. So it's really just kind of like solving what's in front of you, trying to learn as much as you possibly can, and not getting too anxious to kind of move on to the next piece.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
I would agree that do not burn any bridges. Like 100%. Don't burn bridges. Don't be a dick. If you go to GDC, don't get too drunk.
I've seen that. I have definitely seen that before.
Yeah. When you go to GDC, I know there's free liquor, but don't get too drunk. And also, starting a program on a game for the first time, if your team lead puts you on test code and says, look, I need this testable. I need you to go in and do this. Understand that they're doing so because of the fact that test code is one of the best ways to get integrated with an area of code. And it's not just grunt work. It's seriously just saying, like, look, even if we throw away this test code, it means that you've learned this area of the code base so much so that you're able to enter it and understand what the output's going to be.
Yeah, I think that's a really big thing, is understanding how you're able to fit into the pipeline, right?
Yep.
And that's something that all of us, no matter where we are, whether we're artists or programmers or designers, or it's important to understand, our place and how that integrates with the next person in line, and how the person before us works, so that we can work with both of them to make something that works for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you guys. That's great advice, and thank you for sharing. I know that there are an infinite number of questions that I could ask, and there are an infinite number of answers that you could get to, but that's not the main reason we're here. The main reason we're here is play some goofy D&D. So let's get back into that. So you guys just made your way through the first of what looks like 5 different challenges to complete before you're able to get to the chamber containing Lord Akmanok, the ancient, apparently god or king of some ancient society, the priest of whom you just met recently. So that was the yellow doorway, the room of Earth, and directly next to this room is or directly next to that doorway is another doorway, which has instead of a mosaic of earth tones, it's vibrant greens. And you can see that it has plants and vines, flowers, all kinds of trees and greenery in this mosaic. And looks like we're getting some feedback from. Not sure. Looks like maybe Jeff. Is that? Is your mic hitting something?
Maybe it was.
Oh, it might have been hitting against your shirt there. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No problem. Yeah. So yes, right next to this yellow doorway is this one with verdant greens in the mosaic on the floor, and around the outside there's scroll work and very fine illustrations of vines in bright greens in the next doorway. And just like the yellow doorway, it leads into a long hallway, the end of which you can't really see from here. Do you want to continue with your pattern of just going left, or do you want to try one of the other doorways?
I have no preference, unless either of you.
I said that let's go in this one and try it. Hopefully we can get through this one.
Yep. I say carpe diem.
Yep.
All right.
Still dumping sand out of my pockets.
So as you walk down this hallway, you can see that unlike the previous room, this one does not end at a sheer drop off, but it's actually a slow transition from hallway to vine and moss and grass covered greenery that just gradually opens out until you're standing in the middle of this weird sort of ethereally lit, completely covered in plants sort of space. There are grasses and entire trees growing from the floor, almost like sprouting out of the paving stones that make up the floor. And the farther you go in, the softer the ground gets, until it feels like you're just walking on moss and grass. Looking back, you can just a few yards in, you can actually not see the doorway because the greenery is so thick.
I do an investigation check to make sure we're not about to step on a pressure plate again.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Alright, where's my investigation level? You'd think I'd remember this at this point. That is 3, so 15.
Yeah, so looking around very carefully at the ground, it doesn't actually appear that there are any sort of mechanical devices in this room at all, at least from what you can see. The ground is just, maybe 15 feet in. The ground is completely covered in moss and twigs, grass, and there's light coming from above, but it's a very soft, diffuse, warm light. And peeking up through the branches, you can't see any sort of distinct source. It's almost like the entire roof of this chamber is just one glowing light source. And you don't see any sort of mechanical objects or anything like that. It's all greenery.
All right. Let's just start going, I guess.
Yep.
Let's just walk in, see what happens.
Okay,
See what tries to kill us.
Yeah, so walking farther into this room, you start to smell almost like something burning. Everybody do a perception check.
Oh, what's my base perception level?
Oh, so that's going to be +4, I believe. Yes.
Yep. All right, so 9.
All right, 9.
I hit a 20, 18 plus 2.
All right, and Jeff.
9.
All right, so 2 9s and a 20. So the 2 9s. I mean, it's hard to see beyond a lot of this greenery anyway. But Justin, you do happen to catch a glance as there's a slight breeze blowing one of the larger leaves of one of these plants out of the way, and from up ahead you can actually see it looks like something hot, like coals that are red and glowing, and it seems like there's a bit of smoke coming from that direction, like not too much. It's just like a slight scent on the air, really.
I walk in that direction to go investigate the coals.
Okay. So pushing through the grasses and the plants, you actually come to an area where the grass has turned completely black. And looking around, you can actually see, now that you've entered what seems like a clearing, up ahead there is a river of lava just cutting through this entire room. And you can actually see the walls off to either side of the room now that you're in a more open space. And off to the wall off to your left looks like it's pretty much untouched. It's a sheer stone wall, just like the one from the previous chamber. And then up on the ceiling, you can see that it's almost like the stones are glowing, providing this diffuse light throughout the entire room. But off to your right, the wall actually it looks like it's collapsed, and there's a huge hole about 20 or 30 feet high and maybe 60 feet across at the base, and there's just a river of lava flowing through from what looks like another very similar room. And that room actually looks like there are gouts of flame and lava flowing along the bottom of it and now into this room.
I turn back to my comrades and say, hey, I think I'm going to go check out this other room here.
Have fun.
I agree. You're saying have fun?
Yeah.
All
All right. So, walking along the bank of this lava river, the heat is just it's blistering, and as you walk along, your feet crunch along the dried and burnt grasses and plants below you. And you're not actually able to get all the way into the other room. It's just because of the way that it looks like the lava burst through. It made almost like a small lake at the exit of this hole in the wall, which then funnels into a large stream that's about 10 feet across.
Can I do a perception check in here?
Yeah, sure.
There you go.
So what are you looking for?
Just basically if there's any type of interface that I'm trying to, like on the walls, trying to get to.
So any sort of like switches or buttons or anything like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's see here. Got a 16 here, and then 18.
So looking at this wall that the lava seems to have burst through, it actually looks, it doesn't look like there was some sort of mechanical component to this. It actually looks like the wall collapsed because it wasn't built strong enough, and the lava just poured in here, completely ruining this wall and leaving a large, like a pond-sized pool of glowing lava, which is just flowing continually out of the room and into the one that you are currently in. This pool of lava kind of goes up against the walls and extends out about 10 feet on either side of the hole. So unless you wanted to jump into some lava, you wouldn't really be able to get into the room.
Darn. All right. So I guess we can, or I can follow the lava through the forest room to see the other way, the other wall. Yeah,
looking in the other direction, it looks like the lava sort of punched a hole that's much smaller and is flowing down into it almost as if it's like a waterfall.
Okay.
At about that point, the lava is maybe 10 feet across.
Okay. I guess walk down that way. I don't think I can jump 10 feet across it. But
you should be able to jump with a running start. You should be able to jump the length of your total strength score. So if your strength score is let's see, if your strength
11,
score is 11, you should be able to jump about 11 feet.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll walk down to where it's about 10 feet and then make a jump across to see if there's anything on the other side.
Okay.
I follow him.
All right. So you guys all just want to try to jump across the lava?
Yeah.
Might as well.
Cool. So let's see here. Since there is some really thick brush on either sides of this, even with the sort of burnt section, the burnt section is only maybe 1.5 feet or 2 feet across, and then beyond that, it's essentially thick jungle again. So I'm going to need you guys to all make strength checks to essentially run through all these vines and plants and stuff so that you can actually get that running start.
Could I chop them down? Or would that take too long?
You can try to. You need to
Because
get you need to get at least a 10-foot running start before you can make that long of a jump.
Okay, so what would the check be to chop down the brush?
It would essentially just be a bit time consuming. But, I mean,
Okay.
you could take 20 minutes and clear out a 10-foot long path through all of this stuff. But
I don't
that's
think it's
certainly up
worth
to you.
it. All right, screw it. Strength check.
All right,
15.
15. Okay,
17.
17.
21.
Oh, Jeff, it seems like the mic is hitting your shirt again. What was yours again?
21.
21. Yeah. So you guys all managed to get a good running start and leap across this river of lava, and you actually all managed to make it pretty well. I was a little bit afraid there for a second because lava is really, really bad and it will kill you really, really quickly. And you all land on the other side and start to be able to make your way through the other end of this chamber. It seems like whatever this chamber was supposed to do, its original purpose has been somehow destroyed or defiled by this river of lava that burst through. And you can actually see the wall on the far side where there's presumably another doorway out.
Make our way to the doorway.
Yep,
All right,
I follow.
So yeah, you guys work your way to the doorway, and it's actually pretty easy going now that you know what you're looking for. And just like the entrance to this chamber, it sort of funnels into a hallway with the grass and the moss slowly coming to a halt. And once again, at the end of this hallway, there is a right turn.
Cool. Right turn it is.
All right, so continuing down the hallway, you are once again deposited right at the entrance to the half-round room.
Cool. So the next one. Next from the left.
Yep, so the next room is the mosaic leading up to it is in reds and oranges, and there are images of fire on the floor. It looks like that this red room next to it is the one that burst through into the green room. Do you guys want to go through there? Check it out?
Might as well.
I was going to say, before we go, it looks like half of these are decrepit. If the red one we're about to go into was the same one that burst through the green, and there is a center door, should we try to go for the center one, or I guess we go into this one? I'm just wondering.
Why don't we try the center one?
So it's a large half-round room with 5 doors, and the red one is the one in the center.
Oh, it is the center. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry. The ramblings of an old bard.
So, forgive my memory, but is there a blue one?
There is a blue one, yes. It is right next to the red one on the other side.
My gamer instincts tell me to avoid the water level at all costs.
Yeah, I know.
All right. What do you guys think?
I'd say let's just go into the red one, see what's going on. We can check it
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Let's do the red room.
All right. So continuing into the red hallway, this one, this long hallway continues, and you can see at the very end of it there is a red glow, like there's fire and lava in this room. And coming to the end of the hallway, it actually extends out onto this sort of rocky precipice above what is essentially a lake of lava in a large square room. And you can actually see off to your left there is a huge hole in the wall where it's collapsed, and you can actually see some of the greenery on the other side through the hole. And off in the at various intervals in the sticking up, jutting out of the lava, are columns of stone at various heights, which are some of which are collapsed, and one in particular, a very large, tall one, looks like it collapsed against the wall, right where there's the huge hole. Oop, we're getting more feedback. Jeffrey, is there a way that you could get the mic so that it's like resting in a different spot, perhaps?
Yeah, I'll see what I can do. Might have to change headsets.
All right. So, yeah, there, and then directly on the other side of the chamber, it looks like there is another doorway leading out at the same height, also with a large precipice sticking out just in front of it. And there are various pillars that are all sticking up out of the lava. The closest one is probably about 15 feet away from you guys.
So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is going to be very tough unless you're acrobatic. So would one of you guys like to try to navigate this and potentially
So that's gonna
be
be
back
me.
in the center room after you've done this? Because I'm not sure all of us will be able to get across all these things. Can we potentially... we'll find out after.
You want to do it, or should I try?
Justin,
your mic is off.
your mic is up again.
Oh, I guess that I'll stay behind because I can't jump too far. My strength
All
is
right.
pretty. Yeah.
I'm gonna try and navigate it.
Okay, so do a perception check.
Okay. $22.
Okay, so looking out into this room, you can see that there are several pillars, like I mentioned before, the closest of which is just off to your right, about 15 feet out. And the room is a large, roughly square shape. And then continuing out at various intervals and various heights, ranging from about 5 feet below you to 5 feet above you, are more of these pillars. And it looks like they are about jumping distance away from each other. Between 5 and 15 feet each, and they're sort of these pillars. They're not just pillars. They look like they're made of rough stone, almost like stalagmites that kind of grew up. And so there are some handholds on the sides of them and such as well, but they are scattered around the room at seemingly random intervals. And you could, in theory, go and make a running jump to try and get to the one that's closest to you. It's the one that's closest is level with the floor you're on right now.
Okay. So I'm gonna make a running jump. I also have second story work, so I get an extra. What's my dex modifier? Extra 3 feet on that.
Okay, cool. So you are going to actually make this jump, since it's a little longer. You'd actually let's see. I think you're going to have to make a essentially an athletics check
Okay.
to actually get out to it. And the longer the distance, the more difficult it is going to be, obviously.
Okay.
So do an athletics check.
11.
Okay, so you take a running jump, and you just leap off of this precipice, hands sort of cartwheeling in the air, and you kind of land a bit short, and you do slam into the pillar, but not you don't land on the top. You kind of hit the side, do a strength check to see if you can actually hold on to the ledge or if you're going to slide down.
Okay. 17.
Okay, so you actually kind of get your arm up onto a little bit of a craggy rock on the side, and you kind of hook it on, and you're dangling for a second, but then you manage to pull yourself up again and up onto the top of the pillar. The next one that you can see is actually about 5 feet down, and or actually there are two of them. One is about 5 feet down, and it's another 15 feet away, and the other one is right at the same level, but it's a little closer. Maybe 10 feet.
Is it which one looks like where I want to go faster?
I'm sorry. Which one looks like?
Which one makes it gets me closer to the other side quicker?
The one that's about at at the same height as the one you're on.
All right, I will jump at that one.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so that one's only about 10 feet away, but you don't really have like the space to make that 10-foot run. So do another athletics check to see if you can jump over this one.
All right. 6.
Right. So you actually you run and jump, but your foot slides on some sand as you're trying to launch off the edge, and you start to tumble in the air. Do an acrobatics check to try and grab on to flip around and grab onto the side of this column.
Okay. $19.
18?
19.
19. Okay. So you actually do a full flip in the air involuntarily as you're falling, and as you come back around, you manage to latch on to this pillar, skidding down a little bit, and actually you notice that as it goes farther down towards the lava, it gets a little more skinny. You actually wrap your arms and legs around and skid to a stop just above the lava, and you can see that there are a couple of handholds just above you. The lava below you is just burning your legs and ass. Do a strength check to try and climb up this pillar. And we're back. Had some connectivity issues, but we're back in business. Looks like Jeff is now clear and visible and audible, at least in theory. So hopefully we don't run any more of that stuff. But to bring it back to where we were, you had just leapt onto a pillar, but unfortunately unable to get a good grip because of the way that you were falling through the air. You stumbled, latched onto this pillar, and skidded down a few feet with your ass just inches above lava, and you are now doing a strength check to try and shimmy your way back up this pillar. So
it's a 15.
15. So struggling for a second, you slide a little bit and try to latch onto one of the cracks that you can see. You pull yourself up, and you finally manage to work your way back up to the top. And you can finally take a rest for a second. Do a perception check.
All right. I just want to make sure I got that right. Yeah, so it was a natural 20, and I have an 8, so it's 28.
Awesome. So as you get back up onto the top of the pillar, and you're kind of like a little winded, you take a second and just try to calm your breathing and lower your heart rate a little. And as you're doing this, as you're trying to control your breathing, you hear... and you feel the the pillar that you are now standing on start to lean off to your left as the base of it starts to crack underneath you. You now off to your right there is another pillar at about the same height that's about 10 feet away. Just off to directly ahead of you there's another pillar about 5 feet higher that's only about 5 feet away, and then off to your left there's a pillar that's roughly at the same height as you that's maybe 15 feet away. What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna jump to the higher one, 5 feet away.
Okay, so do an just do a straight strength check to jump across.
Okay.
And sort of latch onto it.
14.
Yeah, so you just run and jump across, and as you jump across, you can feel the pillar just below you starting to sort of turn and lean off to the left, and you can see that as it falls, like as you're jumping through the air, just out of the corner of your eye, you catch it as it's falling towards the pillar that was just at the same height, 15 feet away. As you latch onto this pillar, gripping for dear life, you look over and see that the pillar you were just standing on smacks into the other one, crashing against it and sending it toppling to the side, both of them falling down into the lava, splashing lava everywhere. And you manage to climb up onto this pillar now. It's a few feet up, but you manage to pretty easily get up there with all the handholds that are on there. You can now see that it's only 3 or 4 more pillars until, or actually 2 or 3 more pillars until you can actually get to the other side of the chamber. Directly ahead of you are 2 pillars, both at roughly the same height. They're both roughly at your waist height, and both of them are about 10 or 12 feet away.
All right, I go for the one on the right.
The one on the right. Okay. So, make a strength check to try and like grab onto the pillar as you're leaping towards it.
Ooh. 4.
Okay, so you run and jump, and the tops of these pillars are covered in brittle rock and sand, and your foot slips as you're trying to run and jump, and once again you find yourself falling directly towards the base of this pillar. Do another strength check, or I guess this would be an athletics, because you can use kind of both strength and dexterity, but do an athletics check to try and latch onto the pillar and grab some handholds as you're going down.
22.
Okay, so as you go in this sort of downward arc, you manage to just latch onto one of the rocks that's jutting out from this pillar. You swing around and latch on like this onto the other side, and manage to get a good grip just above the lava again, and you can actually feel it kind of spitting up at you a little bit. You pull yourself up, and a good 2 minutes of just solid climbing and crying later, you manage to push yourself up, and you're just drenched in sweat, and you flop onto your back, nearing exhaustion at this point, just because of of how hot it is and how strenuous this climb has been. All right, now you have essentially just one path left, and at this point you can see that there is the one pillar that's directly ahead of you. It's about 10 feet off, and it's about 5 feet lower than you, so this should actually be a much easier jump, considering that you'd be able to go in an arc and hit the top of it. So do a dexterity check to run and jump onto the top of this pillar.
Dexterity, all right. 25.
Okay, so you actually leap towards this pillar, arms going in the air, trying to hit the perfect spot, and as you land, you actually get this sweet 3-point like superhero landing and skid a few inches, and then come up and just sort of like bounce a little bit and realize you are on completely solid ground. Now is the final jump towards this jutting spire of rock that comes out from the hallway at the other end of the room. One final jump across a chasm of lava. It looks like it might be 15 feet. And
right.
this sort of this chunk of rock sort of spits out, and you can see that it's almost like a large triangular wall that goes down into the lava, just at a slight angle, coming like that, and it's very rough on the sides. It looks like there's a lot of handholds, but it's also pretty far out.
All right. I stretch, and then I take a jump.
All right. Do a strength check to try and just latch onto that wall.
7.
Okay. So you run, you jump. You can see that the level of the floor is at about your chest height. You run, and you sail through the air, and your hand slips as it hits the rock, and you start tumbling down, hitting your head. Do a dexterity saving throw to try and catch yourself before you just fall straight into the lava.
21.
So with one hand extended out in this spiral, you just manage to barely catch a rock that's jutting out. Your feet swing down and actually skid along the top of the lava, dealing. Oh, that's not gonna be. Oh, that's gonna be. Oof, that's gonna be a bit. It's not as bad as it could be. You're not like fully in the lava, so it's gonna be significantly reduced, but still gonna be pretty ugly. So let me just get these out. Hang on. It's gonna be. Where is my other D10? There we go. All right. So your feet slamming into what is actually a fairly hard surface of this lava. They skid to a stop, and your boots instantly actually light on fire the outside of them, it instantly starts burning through the leather of your boots, dealing 21 points of fire damage.
Damn.
Oh my gosh.
How many hit points do you have?
I have 33, so
You're still alive.
So you're still alive, yeah. Okay, now do another strength check just to climb up the rest of this wall. Oh no! Are we having connectivity issues again?
Looks like it.
Oh
I
no!
don't think so.
Oh,
I can see you guys fine.
you're back. Oh, it just glitched out for a second. All right. So what was the total for the strength check?
15.
15. So after a searing pain shoots up your legs, you manage to pull yourself up, and then slowly, exhausted, drenched in sweat, just burning and in horrible pain, you manage to get up to the top and take a rest. And looking across the room through the heat waves, you can see your friends standing on the opposite side. And as you come to a rest and start to pull yourself up, your foot hits a plate on the floor, a pressure switch on the floor. One moment passes, another, and it seems like nothing really happens.
All right.
All right. So we walk in the opposite direction.
And you want to walk down the hallway that you can see?
Yes.
All right.
I'm gonna get out of this room.
So Sam and Justin, you guys walk back in the direction that you came, and you see as you are coming back into the center of this half round room, looking down the hallway the doorway that you guys came into this main chamber from originally, you can see that it leads back out into that huge hall with the guy sitting at the desk. And at the end of the hall, you see Jeffrey turn around the corner and start walking towards you guys.
What?
And you guys all meet in the center of that half-round room. What would you like to do next? You still have a blue and a purple door left.
Do you guys want to do the water level?
Sure.
I guess let's just go through. I have a funny feeling that we're just meant to die in this place.
All right, let's do the water level. Let's do blue.
You want to go blue? Okay. So approaching the blue door, you can see that the mosaic on the floor looks like flowing water and waves crashing in the ocean. And the tracery around the door is a bright, vibrant blue. And walking down the hall, it starts to get very cool and humid, and the walls are just dripping with water. And as you progress farther on, there's a sort of light blue glow coming from farther on, and it seems like the hallway actually fades into a blue. And as you keep walking, it seems like the hallway is filled with a fog, which gets more and more dense until at a certain point it's almost like there are actual droplets of water just hung in the air that almost as if it was a heavy rainstorm where the rain, instead of just falling, had just stopped in the air.
Roll for perception.
Okay, so yeah, do a perception check.
Lovely. 7.
So looking around, it's hard to get a beat on anything because as soon as you move your face in any direction, it gets splattered with some water. And looking back, you can see the long dark hallway. But going forward, it seems like everything it's almost like looking out into a window into a swimming pool, except the pool just seems to be almost infinite.
All right.
Well, this is much nicer than being on fire. So I start heading further in.
All right,
I
great.
follow behind.
Yeah. So the farther in you walk, the closer together the droplets get until you're actually having to push through, almost as if you are pushing through waves at the beach, until finally you are fully encompassed in water. And everybody do a perception check for me. At disadvantage because you are technically now underwater and you don't really all have water vision. It's all kind of blurry.
15.
14.
Got it.
So with
10, yeah.
disadvantage, so you're going to roll twice and take the lower of the two.
Yeah. 15 still.
So 15?
Oh.
Oh,
9.
9.
9.
15. And Justin, what was yours?
9 as
9.
well. Yep.
Okay, so Sam and Justin, it's hard to get a beat on exactly what's going on now that you're having to hold your breath and everything just seems weirdly blue. Jeffrey, what actually you're able to note is that while there is sort of a semi-uniform blue glow coming from this room, it seems like the light actually does have a slight direction, but you can't see any sort of features.
How much are we gonna have an issue with breathing? I guess.
You will have an issue with breathing pretty soon, because you will start having to. Well, you're going to be holding your breath, and you'll have to either swim back to get some air, or you're going to have to do some constitution checks to hold your breath.
All right, I take a breath, and then I start going towards where I think the light is.
Okay. Give me 1 second.
All right.
What was the... Oh, for God's sake. Controls his breath for a number of minutes equal to 1 plus his constitution over. Okay, so you guys will be able to hold your breath for 1 plus a number of minutes equal to 1 plus your constitution modifier. So so for constitution, that's going to be so 2 minutes for our rogue, 4 minutes for our fighter, and 2 minutes for our bard. Just so you guys know. So the way that we're going to do this is we're going to go in rounds, and each round is 6 seconds. This is essentially going to be like combat. So I'm going to have each of you roll initiative, and that's the order that you guys are going to go in. So add your so roll a d20 and add your initiative modifier.
You know what? Since I have such I have a low amount of time here, and I got lit on fire last time, I'm gonna let our better people do this.
All right. So you want to head back to the entrance?
I'm heading back. You guys deal with this.
Okay.
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 I got an 18 plus 3, so we're looking at 21.
21. And
I got a 16 plus 4, so we're looking at a 20.
20. Okay. So Justin's going to be going first. So Justin, what do you want to do?
So wait, let me just. So we're in the water right now.
So you are currently in the water. I mean, you would know the way back to the entrance, but you are essentially swimming right now underwater.
Okay. Yep. And I haven't seen anything in the. I guess it's too far down to see anything at the bottom.
It looks like you are essentially surrounded by blue.
I gotta keep swimming just forward.
Okay.
What
cool.
the heck? Yep.
All right. And then Sam, what do you want to do?
I want to roll another perception check.
Okay, cool. Do you want to keep swimming along with Justin?
I'm gonna swim down,
Okay.
if that's possible.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. And so yeah, roll a perception check.
I roll a 21.
21. Okay. So as you start.
Wait. Oh, yeah, never mind.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. As you start to swim down, it seems like things start to get a little darker. And swimming for a few seconds, you actually start to be able to see what looks like a floor to this chamber. You can't really tell exactly how far out it extends in any direction, but you do see that it has some sort of pattern on it. It's hard to make the pattern out, but it looks like something man-made. All right, that's going to bring us back to Justin. What are you doing? And keep in mind that this is now, that was a full round, so that's 6 seconds. So we're going to be able to go to several rounds, just FYI.
Okay. So I see Rock swim under, and I just try to take a look around and take a perception check to see where I am, and then, if possible, and then I was going to dive under.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, do a perception check.
You want me to roll 2 and go for the lowest again?
Well, now that you've kind of got your bearings, you can just roll normally.
So it's I'm looking at a 16.
16. So you swimming out directly forward, it seems like it's mostly just straight blue ahead of you.
Okay.
But looking down now, you can tell that above it is a little lighter and below it is a little darker. It seems a little hazy right now, and you can definitely see that Rock is swimming straight down. All right.
Okay.
Is there anything else you want to do?
I'll start swimming down with Rock. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Rock, what are you doing? Do you want to keep swimming downwards?
I'm gonna swim forward now.
Okay.
But also roll another perception check.
Okay. So having sort of glided to a stop and then deciding to move forward, roll your perception check.
That would be perception is a 2 plus 16.
Okay, so having sort of glided to a stop and now starting to move forward, you can see that at the bottom of the chamber, that the pattern that you could see is actually a sort of stylized wave pattern of black and white tiles, and you do notice some sort of shape sticking out of the tiles down below. You still can't see anything ahead of you. It still just seems like straight blue ahead of you, but down below you do see a shape.
Can I run an investigation check on what the shape is, potentially?
Not really. It's too far away for you to actually like investigate it. You'd have to swim down to it.
Okay.
So Justin, what do you want to do?
I want to keep swimming down. Yeah.
Okay. So as you keep swimming down with and finally past rock, your vision towards the bottom of the pool, this pool starts to, or this room starts to clarify, and you can see the same pattern that Rock was able to see. And additionally, you can actually see that as you get closer, there is what looks like some sort of rod or something coming out of the bottom of the floor. It looks like it's on sort of a rocker arm. It looks like possibly some kind of lever.
I wanna try to get to it and pull it if possible. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. What is Rock doing?
I am swimming down as well.
Okay, so you both want to swim down there towards the lever.
Yep. Swim towards the lever.
So as you guys swim towards the lever, that's going to be. Let's see. Okay. So getting down to this lever, you can see that it absolutely is some sort of lever. It has a distinct handle, and it's actually very ornately carved. Now that you're close to it, you can see that it's made of a thick bronze shaft with a grip on the end, and then at the bottom there's a hinge that it can rock back and forth on. And that's gonna be okay. All right, so Justin, what are you doing?
I'm gonna try to pull this lever.
All right, cool. Do a strength check with disadvantage, since you're kind of underwater and it's difficult to brace yourself.
Sure. 15 and a 14 with no modifier, so 14 straight. Yep.
Okay, so pulling on this lever, you do manage to move it maybe an inch or two. It seems slightly loose, but that's about as far as it goes. It feels like something is caught inside some sort of mechanism or something like that.
Oh no.
All right, and Rock, what is Rock doing?
I'm going to try to pull it too.
So you want to assist him?
Yep, assist him.
Okay, cool. So do another strength check. This time, well, there would be disadvantage since you're underwater, but you would have advantage since you're helping. So essentially, just do a strength check. Yeah.
Okay. That would be a 14.
Okay, so the same sort of thing happens. It seems like it might go like another half inch farther, but it almost feels like grinding gears in there. All right. Okay. Justin, what do you want to do?
I guess I mean, we both just tried to do this. I'm thinking that I guess we'll give it one more shot and then possibly have to swim up to the top. But can I take a perception check real quick just to see if there's anything else that we're missing here? Or?
Yeah, sure. Actually, do an investigation check for this one.
Okay, investigation.
Specifically, looking around, trying to find stuff.
Okie dokie. Is it a disadvantage?
No. Since you're a little more grounded now, it's just a regular check.
Okay, I got a 12.
Yeah, you don't actually see anything around you that could be related to this. It's more just like tile on the floor, and then it's maybe a little bit of darkness back where the hallway was that you came from, and then just blue ahead of you with slightly lighter blue directly above.
Oof. I guess I can see Rock right next to me, and I'm gonna point at him, point at the lever, and then kind of gesture like we're gonna give it one more go.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So Sam, you want to just help with that?
Yep. Let's do it.
So yeah, both of you make strength checks.
Sure. Oh gosh. I got a 4. I'm running out of air.
I got a 7.
Yeah. So it doesn't seem to move any more than it did before. It seems like it's pretty solidly sticking in this short little range, almost like it's a little bit loose, but nothing else is happening with this specific lever.
All right. Is it my turn?
Yeah, technically. I mean, you just assisted Sam, but if you wanted to do like a perception check or something, or like look around, do anything else, you could swim if you wanted to.
I want to do an perception check.
Okay, so yeah, just to kind of take a look around, essentially.
Yep. I think it's a 13.
Yeah, you don't really get a sense that there's anything else in this general vicinity. I mean, it seems pretty much the same as what I just described before. You can't really see anything from this perspective.
All right, then.
So that's going to bring it back to Justin. What do you want to do?
I'm gonna start swimming back up and towards where we came from. Yeah.
All right.
I've given up. Yeah.
So you want to go back to the hallway?
I think so. Yeah. I'm gonna start swimming back that way. Yep.
Okay. Cool. So all right. And Sam, what do you want to do?
I want to swim straight up.
Straight up. Okay. Cool. Sounds good. So Justin, you're just heading back to the hall?
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
Cool. So let's see here. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So swimming straight up for several seconds, you find that it gets much brighter, and the water gets a little bit warmer. Do another perception check.
Okay. That would be a 14.
Okay, so having gone almost the same distance up that you went down to get to the lever, you can see now that you're towards what seems like probably the top of the chamber, there is another patterned mosaic, this time on the ceiling, of a very similar pattern, except it's instead of being like blacks and whites, it's whites and blues, like very light, like azure blues, and directly above the lever that was down below, you see another lever on the ceiling.
I try to pull the lever.
Okay, so running up or swimming up to the lever, you kind of brace and pull it, and it goes about the same distance that the other lever went.
Okay, cool. Is Justin done with his turn as well, or?
I mean, he's just swam back to the hallway. Is there anything that you want to do, Justin? You just want to? I mean, you wouldn't be. You wouldn't be aware.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
of what he's
aware of
doing.
that stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess, for the sake of that, I'm not aware of what's going on. How close am I back to getting to the hallway?
You'd be pretty close, if not already there.
Okay, yeah, because I want to get over to Magrel and try to do a healing word to her.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can say that you can do that. Okay. Sam, what are you doing?
I am going to go to the rightmost wall.
Okay. So swimming off in that direction for several seconds, not quite as long as it took to get to down to the floor or to the ceiling, you actually come to just a sheer rock wall, and it seems that it seems pretty much featureless. Looking around, it is just a flat wall, very similar to the walls of the previous chambers.
All right. In that case, I go forward instead.
One second. Okay. I'm just tallying things here. Hang on a second. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So you wanted to swim to the opposite wall or the front
Yep.
wall?
Well, I've already been to the front wall.
Okay, so you've
Front wall
you've been
directly
to,
opposite
yeah,
the
you've been to
entrance.
the bottom, you've been to the top, and you've been to the right side. So now you want to go to the wall opposite the entrance, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so swimming up to this wall, it's it seems very similar to the wall that you were just at. Large and featureless, and off in the distance you can actually see a hallway leading out of here, and maybe 2 feet down that hallway there's a stone wall or a stone door or something like that.
All right. Now finally, I go to the left wall.
Mhm.
That is opposite from the previous wall I went to.
It appears very similar to the previous wall.
All right. I now go back to the entrance to catch my breath.
All right, cool. So emerging from the water, you sort of catch your breath and clear your lungs, and now you're able to speak with your compatriots again if you so choose.
So basically, there is 2 levers, one on the bottom, one on the top. Seems like we didn't quite get them completely. We should probably try again and/or try to figure out what the pattern is all about on the bottom and the top.
Sounds good to me. I apologize too that my help at the bottom did not help pull the lever. I'm embarrassed.
All right.
So my voice, I have a strong voice, but not strong arms.
Yeah. So Jeffrey, is there anything you want to do?
So do you guys? Are you gonna need me in that room? Do I need to? Can I come in with you? I guess let's go.
I guess there's 2 levers, but I mean we could use the help. And can I roll the healing for
Yeah.
for him real quick? So
Yeah.
For her, yeah. So I'm gonna it's a D4. 2 got 9. 9.
All right. So you heal 9 hit points.
Yeah, there you go. Cool.
Okay. So what are you guys doing?
Thank you. All right,
Yes.
let's go back.
So, do you want to swim at the top, or do you want to swim to the bottom?
I think whoever swims to one, the other one should swim to the other, and then
Okay.
hold them simultaneously.
Okay, sounds good. We'll have to try to make a signal.
Either that or just pull them continuously. I mean, doesn't seem like it's time sensitive, so provided they're just being pulled at the same time, maybe it'll work.
Yeah, I don't think I could conjure up my dancing light man underwater, but that would be cool.
So you guys want to go swim out and try to pull the levers at the same time?
Yep.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So I want you both to make just general intelligence checks. So roll a d20 and add your intelligence modifier. You're trying to see if you can pull them both at the same time without being able to see each other.
13 and 0.
Well, yeah.
I had some sort of brain fart, and I got a 2.
All right. So after a few minutes of fiddling with these levers, you guys can't seem to coordinate. It seems difficult given that you can't see each other or hear each other, considering you're separated by probably a couple dozen yards of kind of murky water. What do you want to do?
Wondering if there's another switch. I'm thinking that to myself because you had there was a lighter ceiling, a darker, and then there was darker towards where it came from, but underwater. I don't know if there was another channel. So I'm wondering if I swim back to where we came from, see if there's anything underwater, like underneath the platform or the entrance. I mean, I guess
Well,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm here too, so I can take a look at that.
Yeah, that might be.
All
Might
right.
be wise to see, yeah, if there's not 3 levers for us, yeah.
So I will swim in the area he suggested and look for anything else.
Okay, so
Other level.
you want to swim to like the other end of the chamber? Is that right? Trying to figure out the
Was that
logistics.
where?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I bet.
was-
Yeah.
So yeah, swimming over to the other end of the chamber is actually not super difficult. Once you get over there, you can see that it's a sheer wall, and in the middle of it there is a short hallway about 2 feet deep, and blocking that hallway is a wall of stone. It's very intricately carved, and it looks very beautiful.
Well, that's not handy. I'm gonna roll perception. Is it perception or investigation? I just wanted to see.
So what are you trying to look for or do?
Figure out what to do here. Let's see if there's anything around this area that would help.
Okay, yeah. So an investigation.
Investigation. All right. 13.
Okay, so looking around briefly, something catches your eye on the door, the stone wall that's blocking this hallway, and as you get closer, you see that it's actually a sort of diagram with with essentially like a box with images of the 2 levers, one on top and one on bottom, and a guy on the bottom pulling on the lever, a guy on the top who's like standing upside down, almost like an Egyptian hieroglyphic guy, also pulling the lever. And there is this like stylized rushing water going out of the middle of the room. Additionally, in the in the center of this big box, there is like a sort of stylized eye, or like a it looks very similar to an eye, almost as if the eye is like watching the room or something, and it's like floating right in the center.
Oh,
All
God.
right. I swim to the center of the room and see if there's an eye, which I don't think there is. But
Okay, do a perception check. Actually, everybody
right.
do a perception check.
Okay.
26.
16.
13.
Okay, so, Jeff, you looking from the center of the room, you find that you are just in the perfect spot to actually just be able to barely see every single wall of the chamber, including both of your compatriots at the top and bottom. You guys can only see the wall or the floor and the ceiling, and Jeff floating in the middle of the room, just barely. You can just barely see his silhouette there.
All right. Um, I'm trying to think of how I can signal them to pull at the same time.
So I point to Jeff and I shrug at him.
I make a pulling motion, and I say, stop pulling, and then I do the same thing, the other direction. Hopefully, you both see that.
Yeah, I wave back.
Okay.
Thumbs up.
And
All right. What are you doing?
They probably can't. They probably can't hear. They probably can't see like a single finger. Hey.
They can see your general silhouette.
All right. So then I like, and make a pulling motion so that they hopefully both start pulling at the same time.
Okay. I want both of you to make intelligence checks and do it with advantage, since you do have your friends helping you now.
Okay.
So roll 2 and take the higher of the two.
17.
I got a 9. I'm just a big dummy.
Initially, this seems like a pretty tough concept. Like it's just not getting through. But after a couple more tries, you're like, wait, okay. Yeah, and you pull at just the right moment, and suddenly you all hear this rushing, and at the same time, the bottom of the chamber starts to push upwards, and the top of the chamber starts to push downwards, pushing all of the water out of the room. What do you guys want to do?
Swim.
I roll a perception check to find out if there's any safe places to be with the pushing up floor and ceiling.
Okay. Yeah. Do a perception check.
17.
Okay, so as these the floor and ceiling are pushing towards each other, the water gets a little easier to see through as there's less distance, and you can actually see towards the exit that stone wall is completely gone. It seems to have vanished or moved out of the way or something like that.
All right.
Swim towards that.
All right.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to
I'm
assume
gonna follow them.
Yeah, you probably all want to swim that. Okay, so swimming in that direction, the current starts to pull you guys through, and you're after a few seconds of rushing and kind of scraping along a hallway, you're all deposited out in a huge rush of water into the center of the semicircular room with all of the exits.
I shake myself off and say, I guess we're going to the purple room.
All right.
Let's
You guys
go.
want to go? All right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
the purple room has the the tiles on the floor leading up to it are in sort of pinks and purples, and they're a lot more abstract than the other patterns. They're all just like swirls and waves and such. And walking into this hallway, there's a rushing sound, like a that just gets louder and louder as you progress down until you get to an area at the end of the hallway where as you walk out onto an area similar to a rocky sort of precipice, similarly to the fire room, as you walk out, you can see directly across from you there is another exit, similar to the one you guys just came out of, very similar to the one in the fire room. And there is absolutely nothing else in this room. It is just a blue expanse, and you can't even see a wall on the other side. In fact, when you turn around to look around the doorway you just came out of, it just looks like blue sky. And it goes like that in all directions. And the farther that you walk out onto this precipice, the sort of lighter you feel.
All right. So does the precipice end, or does it just keep going?
The precipice ends about 10 feet out from the doorway, and it's just kind of a jagged chunk of rock that's flat on top and then just goes down to a peak at the bottom. Looking down that way, you can see that it almost looks like just a rock floating in space.
I walk to the edge and just touch it to see if like there's an actual cliff or if it just keeps going.
Walking out there, trying to touch it with your hand or with your foot, doesn't seem like there is anything. Do a perception check, though.
17.
So as you walk out farther onto this precipice and finally put your foot out there, it's an odd effect. The more that you walk, the lighter you feel, until at the very tip of the precipice, it almost feels like there's almost nothing holding you to the ground. You almost feel like you're just going to float away.
Mm.
I walk up and jump.
So
Well, that was far less
you just
cautious
wanna
than I was going to be.
jump straight out?
Yeah, I just Superman jump.
Okay, do you want to take... you just want to just walk out and boop? Or do you want to
Dive
actually
straight
run?
forward.
You want to dive, run and dive?
Run and dive.
Okay, all right. Do an acrobatics check.
All right. What do I have for my acrobatics? Hang on. 16.
All right. So you just sprint out and Superman out there, and you just start flying off into space, just Supermaning it out there. And for a second, it seems like you are just stuck floating in midair, and you're at the halfway point, and it seems like both of them are equally far away, and the next one isn't getting any closer, and it is terrifying. But then, after a couple seconds, you realize, no, you just slowed down a bit, but you're still moving forward. Do a dexterity check to now sailing towards this precipice and doorway that are just hanging in the air. See if you can actually catch onto it.
20.
Okay, so sailing slowly forward, shaving off more and more speed from the air resistance. You still are going at a pretty good clip, and you manage to just hook your arm around the edge of the doorway and swing around. As you swing around, you actually come back through the doorway and land on your ass.
I wave to them and walk through, I guess.
Okay, cool. So walking through the doorway, you take a few steps. You hear a click as one of your feet presses down on something. A moment passes. Another moment passes. Nothing seems to happen.
All right. I think we can go back the other way without having to do this flying thing, unless you want to go flying.
I'll head out. I'll jump into it.
All right, cool. So heading back in the opposite direction, you guys see that coming around the corner into the half-round room is Rock, sort of strutting into the room, being like, "Yeah, I kind of flew across that space. It was pretty cool, right? Yeah, it was genuinely impressive." And at this point, I want everybody to do another perception check.
23.
8.
All right.
I got 4.
All right. So, Sam, Rock being, having gotten this accomplishment under his belt, I mean, it makes you feel pretty awesome. I mean, it's really cool. It's cool, dude. And, Sullivan being a bard, I mean, it would naturally be interested in really interesting accomplishments. So it's kind of distracting to you guys. I mean, let's be honest. However, Megaril happens to notice from the hallway that you just walked through that it does not look like the same hallway that you guys entered. In fact, the room on the other end is completely different and much smaller.
I think we actually accomplished what we were trying to do. I say, and I point towards the new doorway.
All right. So
I
what are you
turn
gonna do?
around dumbfounded and kind of embarrassedly agree and say and follow you.
All right. So you guys just want to head into the next room?
Yes.
I want to head in the next. While heading in the next room, can I cast another healing word on Magral? Just keep topping her off.
You certainly can.
Okay.
All right. So heading into the next room, you see that it is a fairly small. It's well, at least in comparison to other rooms that you've been in today, fairly small. It's actually about 20 feet deep and 30 feet wide, and in the center of this room, standing on a plinth that is a good 10 feet long and maybe 3 or 4 feet wide, is a sarcophagus made of pure gold, ornately decorated with thousands of inscriptions and incredibly detailed filigree. It's mind-blowing how detailed this is. And going through the plinth, through holes in the plinth, 3 large holes about yay big are chains that have links about as thick as a man's wrist. Like the actual bars are about as thick as a man's wrist. They go through and lock together on top of the sarcophagus. And at the other end of the room, in a sconce in the wall with gold lines radiating out, is a golden amulet about this big, with 5 multicolored gems set in it. And the entire room has this sort of ethereal glow about it. And as you approach the center of the room, the sarcophagus shakes and moves and rattles the chains, but it doesn't seem to be able to move.
All right. Did you cast Healing Word on me?
Yes, I did. I got a 7. Sorry, I got a 3. I got a 3. Couldn't get a 7 on the D4. I got 3 and then plus 7 spell attack bonus. So I got 10.
Okay, excellent. Thank
Yeah.
you.
More hit points.
Cool.
Awesome.
It seems to me like from what we were told, the amulet is actually the one with the power to do the stuff that's destroying the town, create large rock things. So why don't we just take that and maybe we sell it somewhere?
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lich-like creature that's clearly inside of a giant sarcophagus that's chained down.
Yeah, well, it's chained down. It's not an issue right at this moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I look at the both of you.
That's
It's like,
true.
we've been through a lot today. I felt like every
Yeah.
time we were gonna go in one of those rooms, it was be a little something more for us, and we seemed to fail in a couple of them. So I'm glad we made it this far.
And maybe getting him further away from this magic amulet's probably for the best.
I think so. Yeah. Hey, we're low rate heroes too. We're just beginners. This is as much as we
Yeah.
possibly can do.
That's actually probably true. If that thing came out, we'd probably be pretty screwed.
All right, so I'm gonna go and I'm gonna inspect the amulet for any traps that might prevent us from taking it.
Okay. Walking up to the amulet, you can see that there's kind of a like a frame around the little niche that it's in. But yeah, do an investigation check.
Oof, 3.
I mean, it doesn't look trapped as far as you can tell. It looks like it's just kind of set in the wall and held with just like little prongs.
Yoink.
All right, so walking up, you're able to just kind of like use use a knife and just like pop it out of there. And as soon as it's in your hand, it feels really, really heavy. It feels like it must weigh 40 or 50 pounds, even though it's just a little amulet about this big. And as soon as it's in your hand, you feel this just rush of power, and it's warm. It goes up your arm, and as soon as it's in your hand, the sarcophagus starts shaking and bouncing and moving and just going clang, 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 slamming up and down and side to side on the plinth. But the chains hold.
All right, maybe we should get going.
I agree, and say after you, and wait for both of you guys to go.
All right, I'll go first.
Okay. So heading out of the room, this amulet in your hands, you just start to feel this instinctive idea that there is so much that you are capable of. And now that you have this, somehow this amulet just makes all of it possible. Justin, are you leaving as well?
Yeah, I'm leaving, but I also have my hand on my loot holster. I didn't really describe that during this whole thing, but one would think that the bard would have it on his back.
Oh yeah, of course.
I actually have a loot holster. It's a leather belt that comes across, and I have it, so I kind of have my hand on the frets of my loot. Like I might have to be, casting some sweet tunes here soon.
Sweet. And
I have my hand in my sword as well.
Okay. And are you following them?
Yep.
All right. So, as you proceed out of the room, you can see that the hallway extends and then seems to keep extending, like almost as if the end of the hallway in this dim room ahead is actually getting farther and farther away as you keep walking until it gets almost pitch black at the end of the hall. And as you keep moving forward, you can see that suddenly there's light again, and it opens up into the large room with all the pillars and the desiccated gentleman sitting at his desk reading his book. And turning around, it looks like it is the half-round room again.
Cool. Let's walk out.
I stuff the amulet in the pocket or something so that it's not quite so visible.
All right, cool. So as you walk out of the room, you hear a slight shuffle from the chair in the center of the room as the dry neck turns to look at you guys as you walk by.
We couldn't find anything. See you later.
Yep. Have a good one.
Do a deception check.
I'm gonna. Yeah, okay.
Deception.
Yes, deception.
Which one is for deception?
Oh, let's let's see here. It'll be in the column along with things like athletics and intimidation and investigation.
15.
15. And oh, Jeff, are you still there? You look frozen. Oh no!
You made the international sound of not still there.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Well, he has a smile on his face at least.
Am I still here?
Oh, there you are. You're at least audible.
It's the amulet doing it.
Yep.
It is. It's glitching my computer.
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh no.
Was that a 19?
19, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, he kind of looks at you guys as you're kind of fast walking out of there. It's difficult to read the face of a mummy, but from what little body language you can glean from this dried and desiccated animated corpse, he seems to be, I don't know, I guess aghast, in awe of your boldness, but you continue on, and working your way back to the large hole that you guys initially climbed down into. You can see that the sun is much higher in the sky now. It's now maybe midday, late morning, and with the sun shining down, you can see that it's a lot easier to climb out than it was to climb in, despite your acrobatics earlier. And coming up to the town, you find that everyone in town is sort of standing around the hole, looking down at you, and they all seem to have fairly peaceful expressions on their faces. And Zinnia, the bartender who you met earlier, is actually standing there waiting to greet you, and she looks kind of shrunken from earlier, and she comes up to you and she says, "I don't know what you boys did, but I thank you. It's been weighing on my mind so heavily. You know, all of this, all the bad dreams and my house falling into the hole. And I didn't want anyone to know. I wanted to keep a brave face, but I feel so much more at peace now. Something's different, and I know it's 'cause of you boys. And you, milady, thank you all so much." And at this point, Zane, the mayor, pushes past her, and he kind of like turns his nose up at her, and he's like, "You old bitch." And he turns to you guys, and he says, "Look, I don't know what you guys did down there, but as soon as you did whatever you did, everyone in town could feel the difference. It's like a weight has been lifted from all of our shoulders. Thank you so much for... I don't know what it is you did, but whatever it was good, clearly. There was a baby in my daughter's home. She was babysitting for the day, and the child was crying in her sleep for 4 hours, and then like that, it just went into a peaceful sleep. So whatever you did, thank you." And from inside his tunic, he reaches out in and he grabs a bag of a small leather satchel, and he hands it to you, and he's like, "Take this. This is from the city savings. It's more than the promised amount. Thank you so much. We hope that in the future you'll think of us." And he gives you the bag, which turns out to be full of golden coins.
Ooh.
Nice.
And with that,
Cool.
I think we're going to leave tonight's session. And I
Excellent.
hope that you guys had a good time. I know that
It
I
was-
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
I
awesome,
did.
man.
It was fun.
And I hope that this was fun enough that you consider doing it again in the future, because I'd love to have any of you guys back on. I know that Jeffrey's already
Absolutely.
done this once before, and I hope he had a good time in the previous one. And
Yeah.
thank you guys for watching Dungeons and Devs. This is a weird experimental thing. I'm not sure how it's going to go in the future, but it's working out pretty okay so far. So,
Awesome.
Sam, Justin, Jeffrey, thank you guys so much for joining me. And have a good night.
You
See
too.
ya. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Bye.